We offer fitness classes, stress relief training, and even dietary improvement sessions. This gym, run by head coach Young Doo-cheon, prides itself on 100% customer satisfaction. The monthly fee is 150,000 won, not too expensive, right? Young Doo-cheon turned his back to Kim Yoon-sung and said, I'll train you personally, just like a private coach. Kim Yoon-sung was deep in thought. It's hard to recognize him with that beard. But I'm sure he's Young Doo-cheon, the former UFO champion. Young Doo-cheon sat down, crossing his arms, and asked Kim Yoon-sung cheerfully. What motivated you to come to the gym? I want to learn how to fight better, Kim Yoon-sung replied. I want to defeat everyone who bullied me. The deadly intent in Kim Yoon-sung's voice was palpable. As if he was ready to crush all those who had wronged him. Hearing this, Young Doo-cheon's expression grew serious. The smile on his face vanished. After thinking for a moment, he said, A gym is not a place to teach you how to fight. If you're only here to beat someone, I can't take you in. Young Doo-cheon tried to reason with Kim Yoon-sung. You just need to exercise. Those bad guys won't bully you anymore. Why not focus on working out first? Kim Yoon-sung glared at Young Doo-cheon in silent anger. Young Doo-cheon, the first UFO champion of Korea, he thought. There must be a reason he's living like this. He could have had a luxurious life with his fame. Yet he's content with running a small gym in a rural town. Kim Yoon-sung recalled the scandal from Young Doo-cheon's past. During the doping test in his third title defense match, it was discovered that he had used anabolic steroids, a banned substance in sports that can rapidly increase muscle strength. Young Doo-cheon had stood before the media, powerless, and admitted his mistake without a word of justification. His career ended that day. But that had nothing to do with him, because what he cared about was another talent of Young Doo-cheon. Back then, the news praised Young Doo-cheon as the athlete who brought Korea to the UFO championship. This is the second time, isn't it? Athlete Kim Mayan had become a top fighter just a few years after his debut and was rising rapidly. Recently, he had admitted a shocking truth. Let's hear what he has to say. I am not a genius. In fact, I had no talent at all. The only reason I've made it to this position is thanks to the special training methods of my coach, Young Doo-cheon. Back in the present, Kim Yoon-sung leaned forward, arms crossed, staring intently at Young Doo-cheon. Young Doo-cheon had turned a third-rate fighter into Korea's top athlete. If Kim Yoon-sung could persuade him, he was sure he could lay a solid foundation for his own strength. Kim Yoon-sung spoke, in your career as an athlete, what methods or tactics did you use to defeat your opponents? Young Doo-cheon's face began to darken. Kim Yoon-sung continued. I'm willing to use any means necessary to achieve my goals. Is that a problem? Young Doo-cheon's expression grew grim, and in a low voice, he said, that was the mistake I made, because I was foolish. Young Doo-cheon began to speak about his regrets. If I could go back, I would never make that same mistake. I've always regretted it. As he spoke, Young Doo-cheon stood up from his chair. If you make foolish choices just for short-term gain, you will end up in a tragic situation like mine. He turned away, glancing back at Kim Yoon-sung. Leave. I can't accept you. Young Doo-cheon walked away, saying, if you've come to this gym just to beat those bullies, your future will end up in prison. Kim Yoon-sung remained seated, watching his back as he spoke, 100 million. I'll give you 100 million won. He continued, I know you're in desperate need of money right now. If you agree to train me, I'll transfer the money to you within a day. Young Doo-cheon, stunned, turned around. Kim Yoon-sung went on, consider it a deposit. So even if I quit halfway, you won't lose anything. Young Doo-cheon was speechless. The side effects of the drugs had left him abandoned by society. Thrown out of the mixed martial arts ring. Kim Yoon-sung added, you must have known all of this, yet you still chose to use the drugs. In the end, it was the result of your own decisions. The same goes for me, Kim Yoon-sung said under Young Doo-cheon's astonished gaze. Who knows, after learning how to fight from you, I might go out and fight everywhere. The consequences of this could be far worse than I imagine. Kim Yoon-sung smiled and said. I might end up crippled or thrown into juvenile detention, and after that, spend the rest of my life going in and out of prison. But I'm ready for that, and that's why I came here. He glared, his eyes bloodshot. Just like when you started using those drugs, I'm desperate. I need you. Young Doo-cheon stared in shock at the high school student in front of him. Kim Yoon-sung's eyes were filled with seriousness and determination. After a moment, Young Doo-cheon said, never touch those drugs. Turning his back to Kim Yoon-sung, Young Doo-cheon continued. I once fell into the trap of using performance-enhancing drugs. But I won't stand by and watch a kid like you make the same mistake. Young Do-cheon added, the only way I can help you is by training you. Kim Yoon-sung smiled, sounds good. But young Do-cheon interrupted by gripping the door handle. I'm not finished yet, he said. Turning back to face Kim Yoon-sung and staring at the octagonal ring in the gym. If you can hold out for at least one round in there, I'll acknowledge your determination and accept your offer. That night, Kim Yoon-sung's grandmother's voice echoed through the night, my poor boy. She rushed out, horrified. What happened? Kim Yoon-sung's body was covered in bruises. Trembling and crying, his grandmother asked, who did this to you? What bastard dared to do this? Her hands shook as she gently stroked Kim Yoon-sung's battered body. I'll teach them a lesson. She cried. Kim Yoon-sung tried to reassure her, I'm fine, Grandma. But she angrily retorted, no, what do you mean, I'm fine? Look at you. Meanwhile, young Do-cheon sat alone, drinking and muttering to himself. Do-cheol, you're such a scumbag. He pulled out his phone and saw a message to Kim Yoon-sung. Forget about accepting his request. Young Do-cheol reflected on his earlier thoughts, saying to himself, don't kid yourself. I won't go easy on him. He slowly spoke, I've met all kinds of people in my professional sports career. Criminals, and even students like you. They came to me because they didn't want to be bullied anymore. Young Do-cheol looked at Kim Yoon-sung, who stepped into the octagonal ring and assumed a fighting stance. Your purpose doesn't matter, it's just empty words. Once you step into this cage, your goals and your will no longer exist. As young Do-cheol began warming up, he glanced at Kim Yoon-sung and continued. Kids like you, who think they know how to fight a little, always get cocky. After a few punches, they're the first to kneel down and beg for mercy. Young Do-cheol continued to explain, each round is 3 minutes. No need for fancy techniques, forget everything else. Just try to survive one round. He clapped his hands together forcefully. If you can prove your will is unbreakable, I'll train you to become the strongest. He assumed a fighting stance. Are you ready? Kim Yoon-sung replied firmly, I'm ready. Then brace yourself, young Do-cheol said as he eyed Kim Yoon-sung's stance. It was still unrefined, but there was no trace of fear in his eyes. Let's see how he changes after taking one of my punches. Young Do-cheol immediately charged forward and threw a punch. Kim Yoon-sung tried to block it with his arms, thinking he had defended himself. But a second later, the punch landed squarely on his face. Kim Yoon-sung was knocked back, blood spraying everywhere. With just one punch, he was thrown against the wall of the octagonal cage, collapsing instantly. He glared up at young Do-cheol as he struggled to stand. Young Do-cheol looked down at him with anger in his eyes, saying, it's only been 10 seconds. Kim Yoon-sung's face was covered in blood as he painfully rose to his feet. He was still trying to defend himself from young Do-cheol's relentless attacks. But before he could catch his breath, young Do-cheol was already in front of him, arms raised, ready to strike again. Left and right punches flew, landing blow after blow. Kim Yoon-sung could only cover his head and endure the onslaught, doing his best to block the attacks. But his body was already battered and bruised. The speed and power of young Do-cheol are incredible. Just one hit and I'm done for. Suddenly, young Do-cheol's fist stopped midair. Kim Yoon-sung, confused, asked, why did you stop? Before he could even comprehend the situation, a low kick struck his leg, sending pain shooting through his body. He cried out in agony as he lost his balance and collapsed to the ground. As Kim Yoon-sung trembled, trying to stand, young Do-cheol glanced down at him and said, you can still quit now. But Kim Yoon-sung, shaking, raised his fists again, pressing his face into a defensive stance. One hand was on the floor, the other gripping the cage wall. He glared at young Do-cheol and said, there's still 3 minutes left. It's not over yet. The timer was still ticking, and 2 minutes and 14 seconds had already passed. Without hesitation, young Do-cheol resumed his assault, throwing the left punch, then a right punch, followed by a straight jab and finally an uppercut. Kim Yoon-sung did his best to shield his face with both hands, trying to block the barrage of blows from young Do-cheol. Kim Yoon-sung panted heavily, thinking to himself, if this keeps up, I won't last. I just need one chance. With all his remaining strength, Kim Yoon-sung threw a left hook, but young Do-cheol swiftly dodged it. Immediately after, a punch landed directly on Kim Yoon-sung's chin. He didn't have time to react as blood sprayed from his mouth, his head snapping back. The pain overwhelmed him as he collapsed to the floor, his eyes rolling back as he lost consciousness. Young Duchiol glanced at the timer. Time was up. Less than a minute, he muttered. He managed to hold out for a while because I went easy on him, so the injuries won't be too severe. Suddenly, he contradicted his own words. Don't worry about the injuries, that's just an excuse. What he really wanted to say slipped out. I've been trying to hold myself back, but this kid passed the test. I've always justified my actions this way. The vivid red numbers behind him, 100 million won, flashed in his mind. Young Duchiol stood there, motionless. But I can't give up my pride for someone who can't even endure himself. He sighed. Fine, just stay down. As young Duchiol turned to leave, Kim Yoon-sung clung to the iron bars of the cage and pulled himself up. He shouted, wait. Young Duchiol turned around in shock. Kim Yoon-sung, his face covered in blood, was panting heavily. It's not over yet, he said. A faint smile curling at the edge of his lips as he continued to stand. Young Duchiol, stunned, looked into Kim Yoon-sung's eyes. He saw a fierce determination and a dangerous resolve. He watched as Kim Yoon-sung once again assumed a defensive stance. This kid's killing intent, it's not just for show. I need to stop him before he crosses the line. Young Duchiol stared at him with a threatening gaze. Then shifted back into his fighting stance. This time, I won't hold back anymore. Remember that. Without hesitation, young Duchiol launched a flurry of punches aimed at Kim Yoon-sung's head. Kim Yoon-sung blocked as best he could. But then young Duchiol's fist suddenly stopped, just like before. Kim Yoon-sung, confused, braced himself, thinking, I won't fall for that trick again. But what greeted him next was a crushing blow to his ribs. Kim Yoon-sung screamed in agony, gasping for air as he collapsed, trembling in pain. Coldly, young Duchiol said, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. If you don't stand up within 15 seconds, I'll consider it a forfeit. Kim Yoon-sung's entire body trembled as he realized in horror that he needed to stand up, but his body wouldn't respond. He tried to get up, but his body collapsed to one side, leaving him lying there, unable to stand. Young Duchion turned away. That was too much of a hit. There's no way you can take it. Just give up and go home, kid. But Kim Yoon-sung kept trying, using his hands to push himself up, screaming in desperation, get up. Get up, stand up now. He gritted his teeth, his eyes flashing red with fury. You idiot, you've waited for this moment for so long. Do you remember when you were in the hospital? You were in a coma for 10 years, always hoping for this moment. Praying again and again for time to turn back. You begged for someone to end your life, but you still couldn't stand. The image of himself lying in a hospital bed, unable to move, repeated over and over in Kim Yoon-sung's mind. If you don't want to repeat that mistake, if you don't want to see those helpless tears again, then get up. With sheer willpower, Kim Yoon-sung finally managed to stand. As long as I still want revenge, I don't care if I become a monster. I'll never give up until I've torn those bastards apart. Now, standing firm and ready to face young Duchion. Kim Yoon-sung's resolve made young Duchion break into a cold sweat. That punch. Even professional fighters wouldn't have been able to withstand that. Young Duchion stared at Kim Yoon-sung, who was panting heavily. What kind of monster is this? He thought to himself. If someone like him gets strong enough to fight, my life will become chaotic. As he put on his gloves, young Duchion reflected. I understand your desperation, but I can't let you live a life of regret like mine. I'll stop you myself. Young Duchion quickly closed the distance, pressing Kim Yoon-sung again. Kim Yoon-sung raised his hands, gritting his teeth, bracing himself to endure the next wave of attacks. A powerful punch landed on his face, sending him flying backward. Blood spurting from his nose again. Endure it, young Duchion, this time, didn't let up. Keep going, endure it, endure it. Next came a barrage of punches, relentless in their ferocity. The timer began counting down, 1 minute left. Even with a broken nose, Kim Yoon-sung gritted his teeth and bore the pain. Standing his ground, even as his teeth felt like they might shatter. With only seconds remaining on the clock, the punches continued raining down. No matter what, endure it. The timer showed 12 seconds left. Kim Yoon-sung stood there, still trying to fend off the attacks. His body shaking uncontrollably, his breath growing ragged and uneven. Each inhale sounding more desperate than the last. Young Duchion stared intently at Kim Yoon-sung, landing a punch squarely in his stomach. Kim Yoon-sung couldn't react in time and slammed into the wire fence. With a fierce aura, young Duchion swung his fist toward Kim Yoon-sung's face. Just as the punch was about to land, the bell rang, signaling the end of the match. Young Doo-cheon stopped his attack, lowering his fist angrily as he muttered under his breath, "Damn it." Young Doo-cheon threw his gloves to the side and said, "You sure can take a hit." He stepped out of the rain, calling back to Kim Yoon-sung, "The hospital's closed for the night. Go tomorrow. And don't tell anyone I did this." Young Doo-cheon tilted his head slightly and added, "Hey, Kim Yoon-sung, follow me. I'll give you my bank account info." Young Doo-cheon sat in a corner, staring blankly at his phone. A few days ago, a broker from the newly established Emma Association had offered him a deal. They said that if young Doo-cheon used performance-enhancing drugs one more time and participated in their match to draw in the crowd, they'd pay him a hefty sum. He checked his account, 100 million won, just as Kim Yoon-sung had promised. Young Doo-cheon stared at the money, thinking, if it weren't for this sum, I probably would have agreed to their deal. As he typed on the keyboard, he reassured Kim Yoon-sung, "I'll refuse their offer." Meanwhile, Kim Yoon-sung scooped a spoonful of hot rice, trying to comfort his grandmother. "I just got into a fight with some school bullies, Grandma. Don't worry, it's nothing serious." Kim Yoon-sung, now in a fresh set of clothes, sat down to eat, though his bruised body ached with every move. "At least we still have the savings for a house, right?" His grandmother, lifting her leg, replied, "Of course. I've been putting aside 100,000 won every month for the past few years." Kim Yoon-sung, his face covered in bruises, slowly said, "I heard that Myeongjin Construction is opening a new apartment complex for sale this month. We should give it a shot. Maybe we'll get lucky, and if we get selected, we can sell it and make some money." His grandmother, concerned, said, "Even if we do get selected, without any money, we can't move in." Kim Yoon-sung quickly reassured her, "That's what people who don't know say. It's easy to get a bank loan now. If we sell this house, we can pay off the loan right away. And if things get uncertain in the future, we can always transfer the purchase rights to someone else." His grandmother looked at him, surprised. "Since when did you become a real estate expert?" Kim Yoon-sung smiled and replied, "Not quite, Grandma." Kim Yoon-sung glanced down at his phone, thinking to himself, "Go Shang-do will make sure Grandma gets on the list for selection. I want to give her 100 million won, just like I gave to young Do-Cole. But if I do that, she'll ask where the money came from. If I do it this way, she won't feel uncomfortable." As he thought about this, he quickly shoveled more rice into his mouth. "Just wait," he told himself. The next day, on the school rooftop, Park Jin-woo stood trembling in front of Shin Hyo-min. Shin Hyo-min praised him, "Good job, Park Jin-woo, you're really proving yourself." Park Jin-woo felt confused. Shin Hyo-min placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "I've heard everything from the freshmen. You took care of the job as soon as I mentioned it, didn't you?" Park Jin-woo, looking bewildered, stammered, "Are you talking about?" Shin Hyo-min, leaning against the railing, cut him off with an exasperated tone, "Don't play dumb. That guy is tough. I thought it would be difficult, but you really went at him. I'm starting to like you more and more." Shin Hyo-min grinned slyly and instructed, "From now on, you can tell everyone you're with me. Stick by my side." Park Jin-woo, sweating nervously, thought to himself, "I have no idea what's going on, but this seems like a chance." Feeling excited, he puffed out his chest and proudly said, "Senior, if you ever need help, just call me. You know my name, right? I'm Park Jin-woo." Shin Hyo-min laughed, slinging an arm around him. "Good job, kid." Park Jin-woo laughed along awkwardly, "Really?" He glanced into the classroom, spotting Kim Yoon-sung sitting there with bruises on his face. What happened to his face? Did he get beat up outside for being so arrogant? Suddenly, Park Jin-woo understood and laughed, "So that's it." Shin Hyo-min must have thought he defeated him, but Kim Yoon-sung ended up getting beaten like that. Looks like he's not so tough after all. Clenching his fist, Park Jin-woo sneered, "If he dares mess with me again, I'll beat him to a pulp and teach him a lesson." Raising his voice, he glared at the freshman, threatening, "If any of you talk or hang out with Kim Yoon-sung, I'll kill you." Meanwhile, young Doo-cheon stood in front of Kim Yoon-sung with his arms crossed, saying, "Whatever you do, you need strength, especially in things that require physical effort. What I mean is, if you get tired after just a few punches, no matter how good your technique is, it's useless." He began training Kim Yoon-sung with jump ropes, running laps, lifting weights, and practicing body movement and dodging attacks. Young Doo-cheon added, "If you feel like it's too much, endure it like last time. If you give up halfway, I won't teach you anymore. 2 hours a day, be persistent for 2 hours." Kim Yoon-sung, exhausted, sat down on the ground, panting heavily, thinking to himself, "I have to succeed." Kim Yoon-sung's body continued to sweat profusely as he thought to himself about Shin Hyo-min. How many years did he have to train to subdue that bastard? I have to push through this physical training at any cost. His body trembled as he realized, Shin Hyomin isn't even my final target. If I want to drag out those gold members hiding behind him, I need to defeat everyone stronger than Shin Hyomin. Young Ducheol watched Kim Yun-sung with admiration. He actually persisted for 2 full hours. This kid is resilient. He observed him closely and said, though it's only 2 hours, every moment of it pushed him to his limit. This boy has potential. Young Ducheol pondered, should I try applying that special training method? Facing Kim Yun-sung, young Ducheol spoke, since I was banned from competing in the octagon. I'd been researching training methods to become the strongest. Even though my career ended, my students can still rise to success. He continued, from now on, I'll apply my research findings to your training. The image of a strong Kim Yun-sung flashed in young Ducheol's mind. He pointed at Kim Yun-sung and said, if you can keep up with this, you'll become so powerful that anyone will kneel before you. A week later, in the midst of a heavy downpour, Kim Yun-sung sat in class, focused on his schoolwork. Suddenly, someone approached and sat down in front of him. It was Kim Sol. Kim Sol sat across from Kim Yun-sung and said, this situation is really unfair. You didn't do anything wrong. He looked at Kim Yun-sung with determination in his eyes. Kim Yun-sung, surprised, looked up. Kim Sol, a promising freshman, scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. You've changed so much, way different from what I imagined, so it's hard to talk to you about this. But I don't want to side with those who are isolating you. Shocked, Kim Yun-sung asked, what do you mean? Kim Sol continued, so, let's be friends. Still confused, Kim Yun-sung asked, are you saying they're isolating me? Kim Sol, puzzled, looked at him and asked, you didn't know? Kim Yun-sung responded seriously, no, tell me. Kim Sol straightforwardly explained, you really didn't know? Park Jin-woo has been going to all the freshman classes, threatening everyone. He then recounted Park Jin-woo's threats. He said anyone who gets close to you will be killed. Kim Yun-sung, still confused, asked, then why did you come to talk to me? Kim Sol clenched his fists and said, how can you say that? We've known each other since elementary school, almost 10 years. No matter if I get beaten or killed, I would never abandon my friend. At that moment, Kim Yun-sung suddenly remembered and said, I almost forgot, that's exactly who Kim Sol is. When Kim Yun-sung was being beaten, Kim Sol appeared and shouted to defend him. Kim Yun-sung said, you bastards, stop it. In my previous life, after finding out that I was being bullied, Kim Sol protected me for a while. I managed to escape from Park Jin-woo's harassment, but after that, they shifted their target and started bullying Kim Sol. Kim Yun-sung encountered Kim Sol on the street. Kim Sol was holding a stick, coldly walking past him. After being beaten and having his leg broken, Kim Sol began pretending as if he didn't know me. While Kim Yun-sung lay on his hospital bed, Kim Sol came to visit him. That day, as I was still lying in bed, Kim Sol, feeling sad, said, I'm sorry, if I had been more determined to protect you, none of this would have happened. I was too scared. He looked at Kim Yun-sung and cried in frustration. I couldn't accept being beaten every recess. I thought I was brave, but when I truly faced that situation, I couldn't do anything. If there's a next life, I will never abandon you again. Kim Yun-sung grabbed Kim Sol's hand, which was resting on his shoulder, and said, Don't. Kim Sol, confused, asked, What? Kim Yun-sung glared at him and said, Don't pretend like we're that close. Kim Sol looked at him in surprise, and Kim Yun-sung tightened his grip and continued. Stop spouting nonsense. Stop following others. I can handle this myself, don't get involved. Kim Sol, enraged, replied, You don't even know how serious this is. After saying that, Kim Sol stood up and said, The bell's about to ring. We'll talk later. Before leaving, Kim Sol turned back to look at Kim Yun-sung and said, Remember this. I will do what I want to do. I won't leave you alone. Wait for me. I'll be back after the next break. Kim Yun-sung lowered his head, thinking. I don't know what kind of pain the battle with Wang Kim-won will bring, but I'm determined. I can't let Kim Sol get dragged into this. It will only bring him misery, just like before. Other than my family, I should sever all my relationships, whether good or bad. Outside the school, the rain poured harder. Kim Yun-sung thought to himself. I can't abandon my family, but I also shouldn't let anyone else get pulled into this fight. The teacher's voice echoed. Don't forget to do your homework. Kim Yun-sung picked up his homework book, thinking to himself. If Kim Sol comes back, what should I say to him? The rain kept falling, time continued to pass. Kim Yoon-sung glanced at the clock, thinking. Kim Sol said he'd come back, but he's still not here. Could he have given up already? Oh well, there's no need to persuade him anymore. Behind him, he heard people whispering. Kim Sol's luck is really terrible. Two students looked at Kim Yoon-sung, gossiping. Are you talking about Kim Sol? What happened? I saw Park Jin-woo talking to him. Should we tell the teacher? What if he gets revenge? Let's just pretend we don't know anything. At least they didn't kill Kim Sol. Those words sent a wave of fear through Kim Yoon-sung. His eyes widened at the sound of thunder. He immediately rushed out of the classroom. At that moment, Park Jin-woo's gang was dragging Kim Sol into the bathroom. Park Jin-woo, with a dark expression, said. Kim Sol, I've already warned everyone not to associate with Kim Yoon-sung. His eyes bulged with veins, and the thunder outside made the scene even more terrifying. Didn't you hear me? Or are you out of your mind? Kim Sol, instead of being scared, calmly took a step closer to Park Jin-woo and said. Who the hell do you think you are to decide who I hang out with? I don't know why you're bullying Yoon-sung, but Yoon-sung is my friend. So, Kim Sol glared menacingly and shouted, stop your games and gather around. If you want to fight, come at me, you bastard. Park Jin-woo's face twisted with scorn. Infuriated, he sneered, ha, look at you. Before he could finish his sentence, Kim Sol kicked him, sending him crashing to the ground. Groaning in pain. Park Jin-woo didn't have time to react and was flung into the wall, crying out in agony. His lackeys, worried, looked at him and asked. Park Jin-woo, are you okay? At that moment, Park Jin-woo's fury skyrocketed. Humiliated, he shouted, damn it, what an embarrassment. Filled with rage, he barked orders. What are you idiots standing around for? Beat him to death for me. All of Park Jin-woo's lackeys surrounded Kim Sol. Kim Sol immediately started attacking one of them. A lackey from behind Kim Sol planned to ambush him, laughing loudly. Ha ha ha. Kim Sol quickly realized and kicked backward, sending the lackey sprawling to the ground, screaming in pain. At the same time, another lackey charged at Kim Sol from the front. Kim Sol swiftly reacted, landing a punch on his temple. From the other side, another lackey rushed at him. Kim Sol thought to himself. Yoon-sung is going to be so mad. One of the lackeys aimed directly at Kim Sol's face. Kim Sol dodged to the side, thinking to himself. Yoon-sung left to avoid this situation, and yet here I am, getting caught up in it. Kim Sol quickly regained his balance, clenched his fists, and thought. But why'd I have to pretend not to see him? I was just a little overexcited, that's all. Kim Sol threw a punch at the lackey's face, sending him flying. The lackey cried out in pain. He's always like this. Kim Sol, rubbing the injury on his face, thought angrily. But you'll always be my friend. I will never abandon you. Just as Kim Sol was about to attack another lackey, a long kick came straight at him. You trying to mess with me? Kim Sol groaned in pain, looking up to see the towering Park Jin-woo standing in front of him. Park Jin-woo glared at him and asked. What, you learned taekwondo or something? Park Jin-woo coldly threw a powerful punch at Kim Sol's chin. Kim Sol staggered backward. Park Jin-woo raised his hand, sneering. Another fool who thinks he's something just because he knows a little martial arts. He swung again, knocking Kim Sol to the ground, saying. You should learn your place, or I'll kill you, you dog. Park Jin-woo continued to assault Kim Sol's face, saying. Listen up, from today onward, you're officially part of Kim Yoon-sung's gang. Your life is over. The rest of the lackeys smirked, their faces filled with satisfaction. Look at that idiot. Kim Sol's face is all beaten up. Park Jin-woo taunted. I'm going to turn your school life into a living hell, worse than death itself. He grew more and more excited, slapping Kim Sol's face repeatedly. Morning, lunch break, after school. I'm going to find you every time. Get ready for it. At that moment, Yoon-sung pushed open the door and walked in, his voice low and steady. What the hell are you guys doing? His words caught Park Jin-woo's attention. Park Jin-woo turned around. Yoon-sung glared at him and walked straight up to him. Park Jin-woo stood up and pushed Kim Sol's head aside with his hand. Ha, I was wondering who came here. What do you want to say? Yoon-sung looked at the scene in front of him, thinking. Jin-woo, I was planning to deal with him sooner or later. Now's the chance. He's stronger than me. I can't beat him without a proper strategy. To win, I need to make him angry. With that thought, Yun Sung put his hands in his pockets and arrogantly said, "Yeah, I've got something to say. The guy said you managed to land a hit, right?" Provoking him, Yun Sung continued, "You know, it's pretty funny. They lost to a fat guy who only knows how to rely on his weight and size." Hearing that, Park Jin-woo clenched his teeth in rage, veins popping out of his forehead. He growled. "What did you just say?" Yun Sung confidently smiled and said, "You only beat Kim Sol because of your lackeys. Am I wrong?" Park Jin-woo's eyes flared with anger, veins popping in his eyes. Yun Sung's goal was to provoke him into a one-on-one fight. The others in the room laughed and mocked Yun Sung. "Don't you know your place? You want to be a superstar like that cripple?" Park Jin-woo shouted. "Everyone, get out. Let me handle this." He was an impulsive fool, charging forward without thinking. As expected, Park Jin-woo rushed at him, raising his hand high. Meanwhile, Yun Sung was already in a defensive stance. Park Jin-woo was the leader because of his strength, but his brain was lacking. As Park Jin-woo charged, Yun Sung landed a punch to his face. Due to Park Jin-woo's large size, his movements were slow. Yun Sung glared and provocatively said, "Is that all it takes to knock you down? What a waste of time." This only enraged Park Jin-woo more. He charged again, shouting, "You bastard, stop pretending like you're so great." Yun Sung thought to himself, "The angrier Park Jin-woo gets, the more he'll try to defeat me." Once again, Park Jin-woo was hit with another punch from Yun Sung. Despite enduring with brute force, Park Jin-woo kept charging but was repeatedly struck in the face. Yun Sung had learned how to handle situations like this from his trainer. He delivered a punch to Park Jin-woo's stomach, causing him to cry out in pain. "I'll kill you, you dog." Park Jin-woo roared in anger. At that moment, Yun Sung noticed an opening and punched him in the chin. Yun Sung kept attacking, giving Park Jin-woo no chance to fight back. He kicked him in the chest, followed by another punch. With a bloodshot glare, Yun Sung said, "You won't have any more chances. I'll make sure you remember today." The onlookers stared at each other in disbelief. Is this guy crazy? Yun Sung thought to himself. I need to do more. Park Jin-woo had collapsed on the floor, covered in blood. I'm about to kill him, Yun Sung realized. Barely conscious, Jin-woo grabbed Yun Sung's leg, begging. Please, Yun Sung. Stop. I know I was wrong. Yun Sung lowered his foot and said. Apologize? You're sure you've beaten me? The other students couldn't take their eyes off them. Yun Sung's voice was low as he demanded. Say it again. With anger in his voice, Yun Sung shouted. Say it again in front of everyone. Jin-woo, terrified, his face pale and swollen, stammered. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I didn't want to do this. He trembled and said. It was CEO Min who told me to do this. You know him, right? He controls me. I couldn't refuse his orders. All the rumors are false. How could I possibly beat you? He pleaded with Yun Sung. Please believe me. I was just following orders. If it wasn't for him, none of this would have happened. Please stop. I swear I won't ever do it again. Yun Sung released Park Jin-woo's collar and said. You bastard, this is your last warning. If you dare lay a hand on Kim Sol again, I'll kill you. Yun Sung then turned to Park Jin-woo's lackeys and warned them. If any of you even think about touching Kim Sol, you'll pay for it. He delivered a fierce kick to Park Jin-woo's face, sending him flying and collapsing to the ground. Seeing their leader fall, the gang had no choice but to retreat. With a murderous glare, Yun Sung threatened. I'll hunt you all down to the ends of the earth and kill you in the school's infirmary. His voice echoed through the room. Didn't I already tell you? Just behave like everyone else. Yun Sung still bore old wounds on his face as he calmly said. If you don't want something like today to happen again, then stop getting involved in my business. Kim Sol struggled to sit up, smiling even though his injuries hadn't fully healed. Look at you. You're just the same. When Park Jin-woo took me away, you immediately ran after me. How could I not care about a friend like you? Kim Sol said while reaching out to grasp Yun Sung's hand. I don't know what happened, but the truth is we're friends. So don't act like a stranger. Sincerely, Kim Sol added. Even if what happened today happens again, I'd still do the same because you're my friend. But in contrast to Kim Sol's sincerity, Yun Sung coldly pushed his hand away and said. You think it's a coincidence that I fought Park Jin-woo? Yoon Sung's words made the smile vanish from Kim Sol's face. No, I did it on purpose because I want to kill them. Yoon Sung lowered his head, his voice dark. No matter what happens, this is just the beginning. Kim Sol, alarmed, said. Kim Yoon Sung. But Yoon Sung, exuding a murderous aura, sternly said. Do you know what my goal is? I'll tear apart every single bully, no matter what it costs me. Kim Sol quickly tried to stop Yoon Sung. But Yoon Sung cut him off coldly. Shut up and listen. Lee Hoon Sung stood up, his demeanor icy. I've been through too much to explain it to you. So stop getting involved. I'm just seeking revenge. His words left Kim Sol feeling hurt and saddened. He lowered his head. If you stay by my side, things like today will keep happening. Do you think you can handle being beaten by someone like Park Jin-woo? As Yoon Sung walked a few steps away, he turned back to Kim Sol and said. Kim Sol, I still consider you a friend. But remember, the kind and friendly Kim Yoon Sung you knew is dead. A flood of thoughts rushed through Kim Sol's mind. I had to stop him. I must. But Yoon Sung coldly walked away without looking back and said. If you hear anything about me in the future, don't try to stop me. Because you won't be able to bear it, and only then will you find peace. Kim Sol sat there on the hospital bed, stunned. He gritted his teeth, wanting to say something, but Yoon Sung had already left the room. Deep down, Yoon Sung felt a sense of gratitude for all of this. Meanwhile, Shin Min sat in class, casually playing with his phone. His feet propped up on the desk. He was calculating something. I heard the bonus has doubled, and the advance payment will be released soon. How should I spend this money? A sinister smile spread across his face. Isn't it great? 10 million won just for bullying a kid. Later, I'll have them all working as my lackeys. Suddenly, the hallway was filled with the sound of murmuring. Someone walking by said. Isn't he the new student? Why is his stuff like that? Shin Min, still delighted with his future plans, muttered to himself. I heard there's another lackey in this school. If I get involved, making a few billion won won't be a problem. At that moment, Kim Yoon Sung was already standing at the door of Shin Min's classroom. Shin Min, still grinning, said. This is like a gold mine. I could even become the representative of Wong Kim Won right after graduation. Kim Yoon Sung forcefully pushed the door open, grabbing Shin Min's attention. Shin Min glared and shouted. Which bastard dares to slam the door like that? Kim Yoon Sung stood at the door, coldly asking. Is it you? He glared at Shin Min and said. You damn dog, Shin Min. Shin Min immediately got furious and stood up. You dare call me a dog? Kim Yoon Sung smirked. Yeah, you little mutt. Shin Min, feeling insulted, turned red with rage, staring intensely at Kim Yoon Sung. Kim Yoon Sung, now furious as well, launched a kick at Shin Min. But Shin Min easily blocked it, barely moving back. After blocking the kick, Shin Min asked. Who the hell are you, you crazy bastard? Where did you come from? Before Shin Min could finish his sentence, Kim Yoon Sung attacked again, but every move was blocked by Shin Min. Shin Min blocked the punches repeatedly and said. I'm asking you, who the hell are you, dog? After blocking several attacks, Shin Min had already figured out Kim Yoon Sung's fighting style. He sneered. Looks like this kid learned some martial arts somewhere, but he's got no strength at all. He observed Kim Yoon Sung's moves and said. His techniques are way too predictable. Suddenly, Kim Yoon Sung landed a punch to Shin Min's stomach, catching him off guard. Shin Min's eyes widened in shock and pain. Kim Yoon Sung said. You ask me who I am? He glared at Shin Min and said. I'm Kim Yoon Sung, the one you've been looking for. Hearing that, Shin Min smirked and stepped back. You bastard, do you even know why you're here? Before Yoon Sung could respond, a chair flew through the air. Without hesitation, Yoon Sung picked up the chair and slammed it into Shin Min's head. Shin Min cried out in pain, clutching his bleeding head. You crazy lunatic, you hit me with a chair? Yoon Sung raised the chair again and said. If you lose your current advantage, you're done for. He threw the chair at Shin Min, but Shin Min quickly dodged to the side, avoiding the hit. Yoon Sung immediately charged forward, throwing a powerful punch with all his strength. But this time, Shin Min easily blocked the punch with just one hand. Shin Min countered with a forceful hit and said. You're done for, kid. Yoon Sung raised his arms to block the attack, anticipating that Shin Min would strike from the front. But instead, the punch landed on his stomach. Shin Min sneered. You think you're the only one who knows how to fight? The punch caused Yun Sung to wince in pain, but he said, this is nothing compared to young Du Chul. Shin Min then aimed directly at Yun Sung's face, forcing him to continuously block. From the beginning, Yun Sung knew he couldn't defeat Shin Min. This fight was just a way to challenge himself. Despite being beaten and bruised all over, Yun Sung said, I never thought I'd walk away from this unharmed. I had to bet everything on this one chance. Suddenly, his eyes became resolute as he grabbed Shin Min's right leg, which was kicking toward his waist. Shin Min's eyes widened in surprise, not expecting Yun Sung to counterattack so suddenly. Seizing the opportunity, Yun Sung lunged at Shin Min, grabbing him and slamming him towards the window. The window shattered, glass falling to the ground. Shin Min leaned back, trembling. What the hell are you doing? He gripped the window frame with both hands, shaking in fear. You crazy lunatic, what are you trying to do? Yun Sung coldly replied. What am I trying to do? Either I die, or you die. Let's see what happens. Yun Sung's chilling tone terrified Shin Min. What do you want to see? At that moment, a voice shouted. What are you guys doing? The students in the class began screaming. Pull him away, pull him away. A group rushed over and dragged Yun Sung back. Yun Sung yelled. Let me go. I said let me go. Let go. Still furious, Yun Sung shouted at Shin Min. You think this is over, you little mutt? You'd better not lay a finger on my friends. Shin Min, watching Yun Sung in his crazed state, said. This won't end until you're dead. Yun Sung, being pulled towards the door, yelled back. Just wait. I'll knock you to the ground whenever I want. As he was dragged out of the classroom, Yun Sung kept shouting. You think I can't do it? You really think so? I'll pull all the crap out of your head. Just wait and see. You'll regret messing with me. He continued cursing non-stop. A classmate approached Shin Min and asked. Shin Min, are you okay? Shin Min nonchalantly replied. Why are you asking me that? Didn't you see me beat that guy? The classmate hesitantly said. Sorry, I saw it. But, Shin Min, you're back. Shin Min turned to realize that his back was covered in shards of glass, with multiple wounds bleeding profusely. The loudspeaker crackled. Hello, hello, 1, 2, 3, 4. The following students, please report to the principal's office. A few students and teachers entered the classroom where the fight had just taken place. The teacher, confused, asked. What happened here? Teacher Kim Ion-chun thought to himself. The last incident with Kim Ion-chun hasn't even been resolved. And now this kid has caused more trouble. The teacher looked at the blood on the floor with concern. Thinking he needed to handle the situation quickly. It wasn't hard to keep Park Jin-woo quiet, but the issue was with Principal Oh Dae-han. Seeing the bloodstains on the floor. I'm not sure how the disciplinary committee usually deals with things. But Oh Dae-han is trying to turn this school into a prestigious institution in the country. Will he let this go? Principal Oh Dae-han's calm voice resonated. Let's just move past this issue. Teacher Kim Ion-chun felt uneasy. Excuse me, what? Oh Dae-han repeated. I said, let's forget about this issue. Teacher Kim Ion-chun, still confused, replied. I don't understand what you're saying. Oh Dae-han, sipping his tea, slowly said. Mr. Kim Ion-chun, a friend of mine told me that Go Chang-bio's eldest son has made significant strides in securing victory in the succession battle for Myeongjin Construction Group. He grinned slyly. Go Chang-bio has agreed to become a sponsor for June in high school. He has declared that he will make a substantial contribution to the school's operational expenses. And once he becomes the president of Myeongjin Construction Group, he promises to sponsor even more. Hearing this, teacher Kim Ion-chun was left speechless. The principal smiled and continued. To be honest, sponsoring is very different from donating or contributing. People only sponsor when they want something in return. Oh Dae-han tilted his head and asked. What do you think Go Chang-bio, the heir to Myeongjin Construction, is hoping to get in return for sponsoring June in high school? A reputable company image in Daesan? No, what Go Chang-bio wants is special treatment. Oh Dae-han continued. During the time Kim Ion-chun is studying at June in high school. No matter what trouble he causes. Go Chang-bio wants us to sweep it under the rug as if nothing happened. Hearing the principal's words. Teacher Kim Ion-chun stood silently, clenching his fists. So this time, let's just turn a blind eye. Isn't this what we've always done? He added. Haven't we supported a few students at June in high school before? Like I said, of course, I won't let you do this for free. Salary, performance bonuses, and countless other benefits from the school will be prioritized for you. He continued in a scheming tone. As our investor mentioned, he's left behind a few priority tickets for purchasing the soon-to-be available apartments in Myungjin's real estate development. He looked directly at the teacher and kindly said, I've heard that real estate prices are going up. You and your wife should have a nice apartment for yourselves, don't you think? Upon hearing this, the teacher gave a sly smile and said, Just handle things as you usually do. The principal, delighted, replied, From now on, we only need to take care of one person, and that's Kim Yun-sung. The teacher excitedly slammed his hand on the lectern. Understood. Yes, principal, I'll do my best. Just tell me what needs to be done, and Kim Ion-chun will handle it perfectly. The principal, pleased, said. Haha, you are very reliable. Since we're in this together, how about you call me, brother? Teacher Kim Ion-chun immediately shook his hand and said. Really? Then I'll listen to you, brother. I'll help make June in high school shine under your name, and you'll become a legend in Daesan. Eod Han laughed joyfully. My friend, you're speaking a bit too boldly, but I like it. From now on, just take good care of Kim Yun-sung's issues. Understand? If he graduates without any problems, Junin will have the backing of Myongjin Construction. You think I'll abandon such a valuable partner? Thank you, brother, Teacher Kim Ion-chun shouted. Just then, someone burst into the principal's office, shouting. Report. Kim Yun-sung was just beaten up. Both Eod Han and Kim Ion-chun were startled, jumping to their feet. What did you say? They both asked, clenching their fists. Who the hell dared to do that? Shin Min, pale and furious, said. This is outrageous. It's completely unfair. He came to find me and hit me first. How can we just let him off like that? Eod Han quickly tried to calm Shin Min down. Shin Min, you're a senior. I heard you've learned several martial arts. You beat a student who's 2 years younger than you. Is that really the right thing to do? Kim Ion-chun chimed in. This kid thinks we don't know him? He always beats up other kids whenever he gets the chance. The principal reminded Kim Ion-chun to speak more gently. Please, let's keep it civil. Kim Ion-chun apologized. Sorry, but this kid always uses violence against others. Shin Min, still furious, protested. This is so unfair. I almost died because of him, and there are witnesses. Do you even know that? Kim Ion-chun approached Shin Min, putting his hand on his shoulder. Every situation has witnesses. The important thing is whether those witnesses are trustworthy. Ask the people on the street. Who do you think they'll believe more, a model student or a troublemaker like you? Who do you think they'll choose? CEO Min was nearly losing his mind. He cursed angrily. Damn it. Kim Ion-chun immediately grabbed him by the collar. Who do you think you're yelling at? He snarled. Listen here, you little punk. If you keep denying and continue doing this, I'll add more charges against you. After saying that, he released Shin Min's collar and asked. I'm asking you one last time. Are you going to admit you were wrong or not? Shin Min felt both a sense of unfamiliarity and familiarity with the situation. He looked around, principal, teachers, all these adults in front of him. They were just as despicable as he was. At that moment, he realized going against Kim Yun-sung was like confronting a madman. Gritting his teeth and clenching his lips, he said. I was wrong. Then he stormed out of the office, seething with anger. He muttered under his breath. Kim Yong-chun, you bastard. Why the hell is he siding with Kim Hye-young? As Shin Min walked down the hallway, he thought to himself. What should I do now? Graduation is coming up. I can't let this situation drag me down. Still furious, CEO Min made a phone call. Damn it. Even if I had to pay more, I don't have any other choice. I need outside help. Meanwhile, in a car, a voice said. This is such a headache, but it's also quite interesting. With his right hand holding a cup of coffee and his left holding a document, the man remarked. This is what we always do. But what is Myungjin Construction up to? Looking at the document about Kim Yun-sung in his hand, he thought. All the bullies targeting him have been expelled. The captain and the teachers are on his side. Taking a sip of coffee, he smirked. The failure of the mercenary will be my responsibility. The broker Wong Kim-won won't overlook any mistakes. He placed his hand on the steering wheel and grinned maliciously. It seems I'll have to handle this personally. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, a man introduced himself. I'm the uncle of Shin Min, Kang Tae-gu. My nephew said he was treated unfairly. Can you explain this more clearly? He thought to himself. People like Odhan will never take any risks. The principal, with a puzzled expression, asked. Treated unfairly? We've never been involved in anything like that. Kang Tae-gu looked at the principal, guessing that if he sensed any danger, he would immediately bow his head. Crossing his legs, Kang Tae-gu smiled and said. Something interesting happened a few days ago. 4 students were sent to the hospital, and afterward, they were expelled. He continued. Kim Yun-sung was also involved in this, but he only received a light punishment. Honestly, this should have been a police matter. Emphasizing each word, Kang Tae-gu said. Are you showing special treatment to the student, Kim Yun-sung? If so, I won't let this slide easily. Odhan smiled and said. Oh ho ho, what an interesting story. In Daesan, there are rules that only apply to Daesan. He spread his arms wide and continued. For the sake of the student's future, we decided not to let the police continue their investigation. We've already concluded the discussion with them. Do what you want. Kang Tae-gu, not willing to back down, stared menacingly at Odhan. Do you really think there won't be any consequences for this? I'm a man of my word. The principal smiled. I understand what you're trying to say, but you should know, this is Daesan. He maintained his bright smile and added. That threat won't work here. At the police station, an officer asked. So, this is the problem? Clearly, it was an act of self-defense against those bullies. He pointed his pen toward Kang Tae-gu, who was sitting across from him. Even we, as police, can see the situation for what it is. Do we really want to ruin a student's life over this? Kang Tae-gu's expression grew darker as the officer's words began to make sense. If we really wanted to punish Kim Yun-sung, we'd have to lock up Shin Min first. Hearing this, Kang Tae-gu could no longer contain his anger. He slammed his hand on the table. Damn it! This is exactly why people lose faith in you and constantly criticize the police. Grinding his teeth, he threatened. If you don't handle this properly, I will make this public. Do you even realize how dangerous the internet is? The police officer scoffed. This is Daesan, not Seoul. What are you going to publicize? What are you going to reveal? He looked at Kang Tae-gu with disdain. Anything you try to expose will just disappear after a few days, won't it? Kang Tae-gu, furious, clenched his teeth. What the hell is this place? It was clear to him now that the town police chief was a friend of Odhan. In a small town like this, such relationships were common. Neighbors and even people across the street knew each other well, and they all seemed to know how to keep each other's secrets. As Kang Tae-gu answered his phone, he suddenly realized why Odhan was so confident. He relied on his local connections. Only then did Kang Tae-gu understand that the local factionalism here was extremely complicated. If it were just about personal interests, it would be easy to intervene. But this involved local sentiments, a kind of territorial psychology. It was as if everything that happened here had already been laid out on a chessboard. And even if someone accidentally moved a piece from its original position, no matter the cost, it would never be acceptable. Only now did Kang Tae-gu fully realize the gravity of the situation. He sat alone, thinking. He wanted to smoke to relieve some stress, but his lighter was broken. He knew this was the reason why people didn't want to work in rural areas. Even simple tasks were made difficult. If this mission failed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Thinking of this, Kang Tae-gu angrily threw the lighter on the ground, cursing. Damn it! He absolutely would not let this failure happen. Wang Kim-won, a powerful organization, had never failed in any request. The organization didn't build its reputation overnight, and Kang Tae-gu knew that even if he failed, Wang Kim-won would just send another broker to complete the task. But in that case, his life would be over, as Wang Kim-won never forgave failures. In this critical moment, he tried to remain calm and think seriously about how to resolve the issue. Meanwhile, Shin Min wasn't in much better shape. As he was walking down the street, he received a phone call from Kang Tae-gu. Whatever Kang Tae-gu said made Shin Min suddenly panic. What are you talking about? What do you mean? You said you would help me. Before Shin Min could finish his sentence, the voice on the other end angrily shouted. Do you seriously not understand what I'm saying, you little idiot? You think Won Kim Won is a joke? You're the mercenary, not me. You already took the bonus, and now you're asking for more? Help you? Just because you're in trouble, you think you can treat us like a joke? It was clear that Kong Tae-gu didn't want to help him and expected Shin Min to handle the problem himself. Hearing this, Shin Min's face darkened, and he stammered. No, that's not what I meant. Kong Tae-gu continued. If that's not what you meant, then listen carefully. You're pissing me off. I'm warning you one last time, you need to think this through and solve this mess. Who told you to fight Kim Yun-sung? Lower his grades. Use the younger students, or do it yourself. I don't care how you do it, just bring that bastard's grades down. He added. So what if there are teachers on his side? That doesn't mean he can do whatever he wants. No one is invincible. Shin Min couldn't believe that Won Kim Won would come up with such a plan. He was a mercenary, someone who always completed tasks through violence, but now he was being asked to deal with the situation by lowering his opponent's grades. Shin Min quickly realized that this idea didn't come from Won Kim Won, but from Kong Tae-gu himself, the conniving bastard. Earlier, he had promised to help, but now he was shifting the responsibility onto Shin Min. Finally, Kong Tae-gu added. Listen, Shin Min, Won Kim Won doesn't accept failure. If you give up on the mission or fail, we won't just deal with Kim Yun-sung, we'll come for you too. Because this is Won Kim Won, it doesn't matter how you succeed, just succeed. Kong Tae-gu's threat really hit home for Shin Min. CEO Min could even visualize himself being strangled to death, the image flashing before his eyes. This meant that now he couldn't refuse, he had to complete the mission at all costs. He ran home, his mind racing with thoughts. Damn it, what am I going to do now? There's no way out of this. At that moment, a familiar voice came from behind. I told you to watch your back. The next day, Shin Min came to school with bruises all over his head and face, looking as if he had been beaten up the night before. His classmates stared and whispered. What happened to Shin Min's face? Did they fight yesterday? Do you know that crazy first-year Kim Yun? He's the one who did. I don't think so. Yesterday, Shin Min totally dominated him. He didn't even land a punch on Shin Min. So that means the crazy first year came back for revenge after school? The whispers of his classmates made Shin Min even more uncomfortable. He gritted his teeth, trying to control his emotions, but the murmurs didn't stop. It's scary. I remember he warned Shin Min to be careful, someone said. If that's true, then he's really insane. That remark triggered Shin Min's memory of last night. The person who suddenly appeared behind him had said, I told you to watch your back. There was no mistaking it. Kim Yun had been the one. Shin Min had quickly reacted, throwing a punch at Kim Yun-sung, but before his fist could even land, Kim Yun-sung spoke. To you, the mission is more important than your life, isn't it? That sentence perfectly described Shin Min's current situation. He froze mid-punch. What do you mean? He asked angrily. Yun-sung calmly replied. I heard that the broker met with the principal, so I already know the situation. Those words nearly made Shin Min collapse in shock. How do you know that? He blurted out. Before he could finish, Yun-sung interrupted. But you should start thinking clearly. You're aware that the son of Myeongjin Corporation is my guardian, right? I never intended to end this as just a school matter. Yun-sung continued. Don't think that causing trouble with me will just result in expulsion. Whatever happens, I'll drag you into criminal court and get you convicted. And when you're out of prison, the people from Myeongjin Corporation will be waiting for you. They'll make sure you can never use your fists in Daesan again. He smirked. You'll have no choice but to leave, to abandon your hometown. But even if you do that, do you think I'll let you go? Those threats made Shin Min tremble in fear. His eyes widened, and a bleak future flashed before him. He quickly backed away, shouting. What the hell are you talking about? What do you want, fairness? As he continued to retreat, he stumbled and fell to the ground. Yun-sung stood above him, looking down as if he were gazing at a trembling dog, and replied. No, I only want one thing. Shin Min clutched his forehead, stammering. Wait. But by then, Yun-sung's anger had fully consumed him, and he declared. I will destroy anyone who dares to mess with me. Staring straight into Shin Min's eyes. Yun-sung said slowly and clearly. You had to accept this. If you want to continue going to school and live a normal life in Daesan, from this moment forward, you must endure everything your victims had to endure. With that, Yun-sung delivered a powerful punch to Shin Min's head, knocking him to the ground. He followed it up with a flurry of punches to Shin Min's face, leaving him no chance to defend himself. The memory ended. Shin Min, wiping the blood from his face, cursed under his breath. That damn coward. What is he? I could beat him any time. But the real issue wasn't Yun Sung, it was the scum behind him. Shin Min knew that if he let things slide, Wang Kimwon would come to punish him for his failure. Clutching his head, Shin Min found himself trapped, not wanting to provoke either side. No matter what he did, he was putting himself in danger. If the rumors were true, Yun Sung would destroy everything Shin Min had. Even if he gave up on the mission, the consequences would be the same. As these thoughts swirled in his mind, images of being tortured and hunted flooded his brain, leaving him gasping for breath. Maybe getting expelled and serving jail time would be better, he thought. But before he could fully entertain that idea, Shin Min angrily dismissed it, banging his head on the table. Damn it, what the hell am I thinking, he shouted. I should never have taken this mission. He slammed his hand on the table, as if trying to steel his resolve. I don't have many options left. If only Yun Sung's grades drop, just a little. If his grades drop, I can buy myself some time. Shin Min clung to the hope that he could escape the worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, Yun Sung was busy planning his next steps. He knew his threats had worked, but only temporarily. Once the exams were over, everything would change. When I get high scores in the midterms, the true emotions of everyone will surface. Shin Min is just trying to survive, but he's someone who needs to achieve his goals at any cost, someone who can't accept his own failure. What he can't bear is seeing his own defeat. Yun Sung smirked. The moment when all emotions converge and explode is when I'll achieve my goal. Thinking of this, Yun Sung smiled with satisfaction. The important thing is the result. If I can get what I want, I don't need to worry about anything else. Even if I have to use the principal or the Myung-Jin Corporation, even if I act despicably. All I need is the result. Everything is going according to plan. Now, no one can touch me for the next 1,000 days. The barrier built by his malice gave Kim Yun Sung a sense of peace. In the boxing gym, the coach's voice echoed. Keep going, don't stop. Let those punches fly. This was his determination. No matter how bad the situation is, as long as you can push beyond your physical limits, you'll never fail. Yun Sung unleashed a powerful punch at the coach, every movement sharp and precise. Exactly. No matter what it is, one punch is enough. To do that, you have to learn to think and react even in the worst situations. Yun Sung had transformed into someone else, his eyes filled with determination. He raised his fists, ready to counter any sudden attack from the coach. Just as the coach finished speaking, he threw a punch toward Yun Sung. Yun Sung quickly ducked, maintaining distance while countering with a hit to the coach's side. Although the coach blocked it, the strength and quick response earned his praise. Good, very good. That's enough for today, the coach thought to himself. This kid really has talent. I've seen him use techniques I haven't even taught him. That must be his hidden potential. As the session ended, the coach said, pack up and go home. Rest is just as important as training, you know. Got it? Yun Sung replied, turning to leave. The coach pondered. If this weren't about money, I'd ask him if he wants to try going pro. Meanwhile, Yun Sung was putting on his shoes, thinking. A few days ago, I got scolded for overtraining. He was right. Rest is important if I want to get stronger. As Yun Sung reached the door, he turned back and shouted. See you next time. But before he could finish, someone brushed past him, causing him to stop. Hello, I'm Kim Sol. I have a consultation appointment today. A few days ago, something bad must have happened. Something so terrible that it had made him become this resolute. Why would a child who always smiled, who wished to bring happiness to his grandmother, change so drastically? Before, in CEO's eyes, Yun Sung's image had never changed. He was always a close friend, a devoted grandson. Why had he gone so far? Thinking about this, tears welled up in CEO's eyes. Do you know what my goal is? Yun Sung had said, even if it takes my entire life, I will tear apart all those who bullied me. Those words from the past left CEO stunned. Damn it, even his friends, I can't recognize him anymore. What am I supposed to do now? At that moment, the hospital room door swung open, and a classmate rushed in, breathless. CEO, something big has happened. Yun Sung and Shin Yang Min. The story sounded unbelievable. I swear it's true. I heard it from a reliable senior, the classmate said. Even though he had heard it firsthand, CEO's eyes widened in shock. Kim Yun Sung, are you really the same person you used to be? You suddenly showed up and ambushed Aeon Min, even trying to push him out the window? CEO could picture the scene. Yun Sung grabbing Aeon Min by the collar, dragging him toward the window. He could almost hear Aeon Min's curses. Damn it, you really are insane. What do you want? Unconsciously, CEO muttered words that Yun Sung had once said. You should know, if you mess with Kim Yun Sung's family, you'll be in big trouble. What did you say? The classmate asked. Say it again, I didn't hear you. Nothing, CEO replied. It's late, I'm leaving now. With that, the classmate left the room, leaving CEO alone, trembling on the bed. Are you really Kim Yun Sung? After everything he had done, how could CEO abandon him? It was at that moment that CEO decided he had to become stronger too. To stand beside Yun Sung with pride. That's why he had shown up at Young Do Cheon's gym. So, you're the new superstar member? The coach asked. Yun Sung asked. You two know each other? Young Do Cheon apologized. I'm sorry, but please don't accept him. I'll cover everything he agreed to pay. Before Yun Sung could finish speaking, Young Do Cheon interrupted. But I don't want that. I can see the bigger picture. This might actually be a good thing. If you have at least one companion, you'll cause less trouble. Young Do Cheon pondered for a moment, then smiled. In this gym, it's my decision whether to accept or reject someone. Now, come over here for a moment, you valuable guest, Young Do Cheol said, gesturing to CEO. As for you, he added, pointing to Yun Sung, get out of here and don't overstep your boundaries. With that, he pulled CEO to the side, leaving Yun Sung standing still in the middle of the gym. Young Do Cheol sat across from CEO and asked. So, you want to help Yun Sung, right? Do you know that Yun Sung wants to wipe out everyone who bullied him? I know, CEO responded. Damn it, I'm a bit overwhelmed. I'm doing a new consultation, something I haven't done in a while. Young Do Cheol sighed, feeling frustrated with CEO. Do you think my gym is a place to endorse school violence? If I had the power, I would kick Kim Yun Sung out. Tilting his head, Young Do Cheol said. I understand, because a gym is meant for self-improvement. CEO removed the bandages from his face, revealing wounds that hadn't fully healed. Do you see these wounds? CEO asked. The reason I have them is because I stood up to those scumbags who bullied Hyun. He continued. School violence is still happening, and it's not as simple as adults think. If Yun Sung hadn't helped me back then, I might have ended up disabled. Lying on the bathroom floor. Now, Yun Sung is risking his whole life to protect me. I don't want to turn a blind eye to a friend like that. Please, don't make me go elsewhere, CEO said, his eyes wide, waiting for Young Do Cheol's response. At that moment, Young Do Cheol sighed, holding his head in frustration. Maybe now I realize I've dug my own grave, he thought. CEO reached into his backpack and pulled out a wad of cash. This is all the money I have. If it's not enough, I'll work extra jobs to earn more. Hearing this, Young Do Cheol couldn't hold back any longer. He slammed his hand on the table. What's driven you to be so desperate at your age? He shouted. Whether you help me or not, I'll still stand by Yun Sung, CEO calmly replied. The calmness and the scars on CEO's face made Young Do Cheol pause and think. In a situation where he himself had been drawn into the chaos of school violence, was it right to say that these kids should live in hell instead of fighting back? Realizing the gravity of the situation, Young Do Cheol reluctantly gave in. Fine, you've won. Starting tomorrow, you can come to the gym. But if you can't keep up with the training, you'll be kicked out. Hearing Young Do Cheol's agreement, CEO beamed with joy. Yes, sir, he replied enthusiastically. Watching the young man in front of him, Young Do Cheol thought. Yes, I should give him a bit of courage and the ability to fight back against violence. As CEO stepped out of the room, a familiar voice called out. Kim CEO. Before he could react, a towel flew toward his face. Luckily, he reacted quickly, catching it in his hands. Looking at your face, it seems the director has already agreed, right? Yun Sung stood opposite him, speaking coldly. But I haven't agreed yet. Do you understand? So prove yourself. Even if you fall into the depths of hell like me, you'll need the courage and strength to pull yourself out. Do you have what it takes to hold on to this fragile friendship? You should know that what I'm about to do won't benefit my future at all. Why are you stepping into this mess? Don't talk nonsense about friendship between us. You could die after one hard night of fighting, or end up in prison for risking your life. Your end won't be pretty. Do you accept that? As Yun Sung asked, he threw a punch toward CEO. Without hesitation, CEO met Yun Sung's fist with his own. I know, that's why I want us to do this together. Two people are always better than one crazy person. I warn you, from now on, don't consider me a friend anymore, Yun Sung said as he lunged at Seoul. I have to win this fight overwhelmingly to completely sever the ties between us, Yun Sung thought. However, Seoul didn't show any signs of weakness. He landed a powerful kick on Yun Sung's left side. Although Yun Sung blocked it, the attack was still quite strong. Did you forget I used to be an athlete? Seoul taunted. Alright then, give it your all. Yun Sung responded, becoming serious. He carefully observed each of CEO's movements, easily dodging the attacks. If you're not confident in your ability to strike, don't throw punches first. If this were a one-on-one, I would have already beaten Gina long ago, CEO said as he aimed a kick at Yun Sung's chin, which Yun Sung dodged. That's the technique that made him famous, Yun Sung thought, impressed. CEO's skills were no joke. Kim Seol had spent years as a taekwondo athlete and had won numerous gold medals in tournaments. He was known as a specialist. However, in a national competition, he faced the son of the association's president and lost due to biased judging. It all became meaningless, CEO once told Yun Sung when asked about his past fights. Filled with doubt, Kim Seol eventually gave up taekwondo. But the determination he developed during that time never left him. At that moment, CEO was knocked to the ground by Yun Sung, who grabbed him by the collar with one hand, his other hand poised with a fist aimed at CEO's face. Do you know that in mixed martial arts, there's a technique called revenge? Yun Sung asked. This move can knock out an opponent too. With that, Yun Sung began delivering heavy punches to CEO's face, shouting, Admit defeat. Yun Sung kept punching, but CEO remained silent. Childhood memories flashed before both of them. Yun Sung had always been the one to stand up and protect CEO. Even now, Yun Sung wanted CEO to give up, not wanting to see his friend fall into danger because of him. Say it, admit defeat. Yun Sung yelled. Each punch landed with a force like a hammer, but CEO still raised his arms to block, refusing to give up. The image of a young Yun Sung standing in front of him, smiling and encouraging him. Don't give up, kept flashing in CEO's mind. I can't, CEO shouted at Yun Sung. I can't abandon you. CEO wanted to fight back, but Yun Sung didn't give him a chance. Yun Sung kept increasing the force of his punches, striking CEO's face harder. Beg for mercy, Yun Sung shouted, almost trying to force CEO to admit defeat on his own. Please, stop, CEO whispered, exhausted. His arms dropped to his sides as Yun Sung continued to hit his face. Even though his face was bruised, blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. And his nose was nearly broken, CEO smiled brightly. It was the smile that brought Yun Sung back to his senses. He stopped hitting and sat down next to CEO, gently holding his friend's face. You stubborn idiot, Yun Sung muttered. How can you be so persistent? You treat a friend too sincerely. CEO, struggling to speak, replied. I have an unforgettable memory. I was mocked every day, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. I was beaten and thrown to the ground. But I couldn't tell my grandparents, who raised me, a child abandoned by his parents. He continued. And then, you appeared. Maybe that moment didn't mean much to you, but I'll never forget what you did. You ask me why I've gone this far? They were cowards, weren't they? I know you didn't do anything wrong, but how could I ignore it? CEO smiled through his pain. I couldn't become the person I wanted to be. That's my life. Whether it was giving up taekwondo or choosing to stay your friend, all of those were my choices. I won't regret them. Hearing CEO's heartfelt words, Lee Hyun-sung could only hold his head and sigh. Why? Why won't he give up? Just then, the door to the gym opened, breaking the tension between the two. Why don't you two stop fighting and come train with me? Young Duchul called out as he entered. I'll bet my life to bring both of you to the top of the UFC. His words eased the heavy atmosphere. Both of you are incredibly talented. How could someone like you be bullied at school? Even without studying, you could easily take down a few guys. Young Duchul said with admiration. As a former UFC athlete, young Duchul had encountered many potential fighters. But seeing Kim Seoho's ability at his age was unprecedented. He possesses remarkable kicking power, internal strength, and an exceptional sense of positioning. At his age, it's unheard of. He displays techniques like no one else, he thought. On the other hand, Kim Hyun-sung was a natural-born genius, with an iron will and exceptional judgment that allowed him to quickly exploit any advantage and instantly detect weaknesses in his opponent's defense. If Kim Seoho was born to succeed in the professional arena, then Kim Hyun-sung had the potential to top the rankings. Young Do-chul stepped forward, facing both of them. Kim Hyun-sung, I have a proposal for you. I've never made this offer to anyone before, but your talent is extraordinary. It would be a waste not to harness it. He continued. Hyun-sung, you once told me that everything you've been doing won't benefit your future. So, drop out of school. Break free from the shackles of studying and focus on sports. Even though Korea has rejected me, I'm still in contact with many top athletes. This isn't just talk. I will make sure you reach the top. Facing young Do-chul's offer, Hyun-sung calmly asked. Why do you want me to compete in MMA? Because to me, it's the greatest sport. Just like you, it suits my interests. Young Do-chul started to explain, but before he could finish, Hyun-sung interrupted. That's why I can't compete. I have no interest in fighting. It's too painful. I've always wanted to give up, but I feel like if I don't give it everything, I'll die. His eyes were resolute and determined. I've always struggled in pain, Hyun-sung added. Although young Do-chul seemed to want to say more, Hyun-sung had lost the patience to listen. Please think carefully. You should make your own decisions, not me. If we're different, you can withdraw the offer. Do what you want, but don't drag me into it. With that, Hyun-sung slung his backpack over his shoulder and walked out. Kim Sol hurried after him. Think it through before you speak. Hyun-sung coldly replied. You don't think you owe me an apology for the way you treated me, do you? That's right, he continued, I've made my decision. I won't get in your way anymore, but I have a few conditions. What conditions? Sol asked eagerly. First, you have to train with me every day. Regardless of what you ultimately decide, we need to switch gyms. If you fall behind, I'll leave you behind. Standing behind Hyun-sung, CEO immediately agreed. Okay, what's the second condition? Second, only get involved in problems you can solve. If it's a fight you're sure to lose or something that involves the law, you have to back out immediately. Before CEO could respond, Hyun-sung interrupted. Can't do it, huh? It wasn't that CEO didn't want to argue back. He had mentally prepared himself to face Hyun-sung, but everything still seemed unclear. After all, right now it's just empty words, CEO thought. Alright, that's it, right? Any more conditions? What's the third one? CEO asked. From now on, Myeongjin Construction will provide you with a monthly living allowance. I mean, just know that, and don't ask any more questions. If you refuse, we'll end things here. Hyun-sung added. Remember this. During the time you're escaping from this hellish reality, focus on your studies. If nothing happens, I hope your life will be brighter. That would be best. I don't want to change Kim Sol's future with this situation. After that, Hyun-sung went home. When he entered, he saw his younger brother sitting in front of the TV. Hyun-jin, I'm home. What are you doing? Hey, brother. If they win today, Baker's team will make it to the finals. Why do you look so worried? Hyun-sung asked. Oh, it's nothing. Hyun-jin replied, still focused on the game on TV. Go cook dinner. Alright, keep watching. I'll make it quick. With that, Hyun-sung went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. In his past life, the team Hyun-jin supported had won the championship. Hyun-jin had never mentioned it, but Hyun-sung knew he probably wanted to watch the game live. Hyun-jin loved video games but had never asked Hyun-sung to buy him a computer. He was a sweet little brother who never troubled him by playing too much. Hyun-jin, Kim Sol, and Grandma, at least the people I care about won't be affected by what I've done. I'll become better, live a different life than before. Shinmin, 1 Kim-won. I'll crush anyone who gets in my way. Brother, don't forget to add lots of sausages for me. Got it. Hyun-sung called back. Just then, his phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Yoon Do-chul. Hyun-sung, I'm sorry. I was too greedy back then, and I overstepped. Let's stick to our original plan. I won't bring up professional competition again. But if you ever change your mind, let me know. A few weeks later, on a clear, sunny day, the midterm exams arrived. Every student was focused on their work. A teacher was monitoring the exam room where the top 10 students were gathered. For these students, the exam was more than just a test. It was a measure of their existence and worth in society. Pass the papers down. As long as I'm supervising this exam, don't even think about cheating, the teacher warned. Hyun-sung passed a sheet of paper to the student behind him as the teacher continued. If we detect any cheating, you will be given a 0 immediately. Do your best and rely on your own abilities. Also, check your student IDs. Hyun-sung glanced at the test paper and thought to himself. If I don't do well on this test, my plan will fail before it even starts. I had to score excellently. He remembered sitting at his desk, studying during stormy nights, all alone, putting in immense effort. But now, Hyun-sung held his head in his hands, filled with anguish. I remember everything, all the correct answers, he thought. Around the exam room, other students began resting their chins in frustration. This is so hard. They groaned. The teacher reminded them to keep quiet, but Hyun-sung remained silent, staring at the ceiling. He realized that the person called Kim Hyun-sung was still trapped in a cage called studying. It felt like he was floating in midair, unsure of where to go. Even though he had been bullied and beaten, he persisted with his studies. Now, he regretted living like a soulless machine during his high school years. Hyun-sung felt like he was falling from a great height. His memories from his previous life still existing stubbornly, like steel. His bloodshot eyes stared up at the ceiling. I can't forget, he thought, gripping his pen tightly. It was the desire for revenge against those who had trampled on him that shaped who he had become today. When the exam ended, other students happily discussed their answers with each other. Number 1 was C, right? Yeah, and number 2 was D. Only Hyun-sung remained silent, staring out the window, lost in thought. Suddenly, a cheerful girl approached him with a smile. Hyun-sung, aren't you checking the answers? It was Trang Tryenbong, the shining first-year star known as EZ. Hyun-sung turned to her and coldly replied. No, why not? She asked, to which he simply responded. Nothing. Hyun-sung thought to himself. Is her name Heeji? He remembered this girl, famous, beautiful, and charming. She had confessed her feelings to him back in 10th grade. But he had turned her down because of his lack of confidence and his belief that he couldn't balance both love and studies. Really? EZ blinked at him and said. Let me check for you. If you have the test from 2 days ago, let me see it. She began checking the answers. Number 1 was C, correct, just like I thought. Number 2, D. Wow, you got 100 points on the foreign language test. Hyun-sung thought. I don't need to stop her. She's using her reputation. Other students gathered around as well. That one's correct too. You got 100 points in Korean history as well? Suddenly, something caught Heeji's attention. Stammering, she said. Hyun-sung, did you get 100 points in every subject? The next day, the rooftop door opened. Hyun-sung and Engchun stepped out. Engchun asked. All right, top student of our school, what do you want to say? Engchun confidently pointed at himself. Tell me everything. No matter what it is, I'll help you. Hyun-sung spoke up. Teach me. Engchun was taken aback. What? Hyun-sung began to ask. Do you know about Won Kim-won? Confused, Engchun repeated. Won Kim-won? I'll tell you about Won Kim-won. Suddenly, a scream tore through the sky. Really? The voice on the other end of the line hurriedly asked. I heard there's a kid who wasn't even in the top 10. But suddenly took the top spot. The principal, sat quietly in his office chair. Listening to the person on the phone question him. Didn't you say the exam this time was extremely difficult? Principal O responded calmly. That child is very smart, but I didn't expect him to improve so quickly. The person on the other end didn't seem to believe Principal O. Did you help him? I heard from the students that you've been favoring him. Principal O slowly stood up from his desk. Nonsense. The exam was conducted fairly and transparently. We definitely didn't intervene. We would never do anything to harm the reputation of this prestigious school. The person on the other end of the line replied harshly. I want to know what tutoring center that child attended. Principal O couldn't hold back a chuckle. Tutoring center? I understand how you feel, but Kim Yoon-sung didn't attend any. He only studied in class. He leisurely sat down in the chair next to the tea table, confidently saying. We can't deny that our school's education system is top-notch. That's why I feel sorry for many parents. They waste money on unnecessary things. Please remind the students to focus on their studies. With that, he hung up the phone. It seemed this wasn't the first call regarding this matter. Kim On-chun, sitting across from Principal Oh, took a sip of coffee. Another call about tutoring? Principal Oh sighed. Don't even mention it. Do they even respect the principal anymore? Kim On-chun remarked. The exam was really tough this time. Principal Oh took the coffee cup from Kim On-chun's hand and replied slowly. Plus, we did it because parents complained that the test was too easy and didn't distinguish students. Kim Se-young-chun slightly disagreed. But this exam was very hard. It was almost impossible to score perfectly. Principal Oh couldn't help but think of Kim Yoon-sung. I know. That's why I'm looking forward to his performance. He was filled with confidence in Yoon-sung's future. Right now, he's showing the potential to top the National College Entrance Exam and become the valedictorian of Korea's university admissions in the future. Principal Oh placed his coffee cup down and casually asked Kim On-chun. Do you think so too? Kim On-chun hesitated for a moment but eventually agreed. Yes, you're right. Satisfied with the response, Principal Oh continued his analysis. Finally, we have a chance to elevate the reputation of our school. With Kim Yoon-sung's achievements combined with the support from Myeongjin Corporation, our dreams will soon become a reality. However, deep inside, a vague sense of fear lingered in Principal Oh's heart. The problem is, I have this feeling that Kim Yoon-sung might cause more trouble. He pointed sternly at Kim On-chun. If the world finds out that the national top student is a troublemaker, what will happen? All the reputation that we've worked so hard to build for this school will disappear in an instant. He sharply scolded Kim On-chun. Do you remember that I told you to keep a close watch on Kim Yoon-sung? Kim On-chun, startled, quickly responded. Yes, of course. Before Principal Oh could finish, Kim On-chun interrupted. You know, I've always done well, but it's not enough. Our goal is perfection. From now on, Kim Yoon-sung will be the brightest product our school has ever trained. After saying this, Principal Oh turned to Kim On-chun with a smile. A sly smile that was difficult to describe. You understand what I mean, right? Kim On-chun, like a loyal dog, nodded and replied. Understood. Principal Oh, satisfied, laughed heartily. Then, he took out a stack of cash and placed it in front of Kim On-chun. Your class has the top student in the country. Starting next month, the school will give you additional support. This is just a small reward. He looked at Kim On-chun with a strange smile. Enjoy it, and until Kim Yoon-sung graduates, and even after graduation, I'll continue to support you as a partner of our school. Kim On-chun's eyes lit up at the sight of the money. Don't worry, I knew it right away. Kim Yoon-sung will become my golden ticket, a priceless one, incomparable to young Minho. The iron door slowly creaked open, and Kim On-chun followed closely behind. So, what's the matter this time, our top student? Just tell me, I'm more than willing to help. Kim Yoon-sung coldly asked. Do you know what Wong Kim-won is? Caught off guard, Kim On-chun looked flustered. Wong Kim-won? Yoon-sung looked at his face and understood. It seems this old man really doesn't know. Yoon-sung kindly explained. I'll tell you what Wong Kim-won is, so listen carefully. You're part of this circle too. Kim On-chun was shocked. What do you mean by that? Yoon-sung quickly brushed off his meaningless words. There's an organization called Wong Kim-won, he began his speech. After a while, Yoon-sung summarized. In short, if something happens to me, you'll be going down with me. Kim On-chun, after hearing everything, laughed with his eyes squeezed shut, wagging his metaphorical tail like a dog. I've already considered your fate as my own. So, what should I do now? Stop Shin Ion-min? Yoon-sung remained silent, a sly smile playing on his lips. No, he said seriously. I want one thing, and that's for you to ignore him completely, forever. With that, Yoon-sung walked past the astonished Kim On-chun. A grown man turning a blind eye to everything, no matter what happens, is all I need. Yoon-sung coldly added as he left. Just handle it on your own. As Yoon-sung walked away, a sense of unease welled up inside Kim On-chun. In that moment, he realized that he could no longer underestimate the phrase, anything. Elsewhere, a young man with tan skin and silver hair, beaten beyond recognition, lay motionless on the ground. I'm warning you for the last time, Gang Taegu growled as he threw on his coat. If you fail again, be ready to lose both your legs. The man on the ground trembled. Got it, Gang Taegu turned and walked away. Remember, this is your final chance. As Gang Taegu left, the man's face contorted with fury. He was unwilling to accept his fate. That dog, Kim Yoon-sung, will pay. Shin Eon-min sat on the steps, frustrated, listening to his lackeys chatting. Shin Eon-min, just keep beating that dog after school. The teachers don't care. I bet if we break one of his legs, he'll give up for sure, one of them suggested. Shin Eon-min flicked away the remains of his cigarette. We've only got one chance to act. But if we do this outside of school, the Myung-jin Corporation will definitely get involved, and then we'll have no chance left. He angrily laid out his plan. We're still students, so we have to take full advantage of that. We can only succeed, we can't afford to fail. We need to make Kim Yoon-sung feel unsafe just by being at school. Because Myung-jin won't intervene here. Another lackey chimed in. That's what Park Min-chun's gang did, and they all got expelled. Shin Eon-min raised his head. That's the problem. From among the top students, two individuals known as the Monsters of Korea, Bha Sumho raised his hand to speak. Senior, can we offer a suggestion? Shin Eon-min glanced at him and nodded. Go ahead. Bha Sumho lowered his voice and presented his plan. Instead of solving the problem quickly, let's create as much trouble around Kim Yoon-sung as possible. Upon hearing this, everyone seemed to agree. We all know the principal is obsessed with achievements. He goes crazy over it. Punishing 1 or 2 people is easy, but can he punish 30? Shin Eon-min added his own thoughts. He won't do anything drastic because it would harm the school's reputation. Good idea. Shin Eon-min smiled smugly, and the plan was set into motion. A few days later, Kim Yoon-sung started feeling that something was off. During lunchtime, he walked slowly down the hallway amidst the noisy surroundings. Suddenly, a stranger passed by and whispered in his ear. You dog. The person then walked over to a group of friends who were waiting, laughing gleefully. Did you really call him that? All right, your turn. Kim Yoon-sung stared at the group of fools, saying nothing. What else could he do? Good, keep going. This time, a guy in a blue shirt ran up, yelling. Kim Yoon-sung, you filthy pig. In Yoon-sung's mind, he thought. These idiots aren't worth my attention. Their lives aren't worth a dime. Seeing that Kim Yoon-sung wasn't reacting, the guy confidently rushed at him, raising his hand to strike. Where do you think you're going, you piece of trash? Are you brain dead? You bump into people without apologizing, huh? Another guy in a yellow shirt approached from behind, sneering. Are you deaf? This guy must be a moron, eyes on his backside. When you bump into someone, you apologize. Got it? Kim Yoon-sung smirked. Is that all you've got? The guy, enraged, charged at him. What did you say? Kim Yoon-sung didn't wait for him to finish. He delivered a punch straight to the guy's face. Before the other two could react, Yoon-sung was already on the move, swiftly zigzagging between them, taking them down one by one. He grabbed one guy by the face, yanking him backward as if to tear him apart. Idiots. The fools were left beaten and disfigured, to the point that even their parents wouldn't recognize them. The guy in the white shirt clutched his bloodied face, collapsing to his knees, trembling uncontrollably. It wasn't supposed to go down like this, he muttered. Of course not. When has a plan by idiots like you ever succeeded? Kim Yoon-sung walked up to the guy in the white shirt, told him to lift his head, and then delivered a swift kick that sent him flying. As the guy lay on the ground, Kim Yoon-sung looked at him and calmly said, Tell your boss this. If you're not smart, don't try to be scheming. If you're an idiot, stop playing stupid games. A while later, a group of people stormed into Kim Yoon-sung's classroom, led by Bae Sun-ho. As Bae Sun-ho looked around the classroom, he couldn't stop thinking. This has gone off track from the original plan. These first-year students can't fight back. Now I have to personally step in and deal with these brats. Bae Sun-ho slowly approached Kim Yoon-sung, who was calmly studying. With his hands in his pockets, he walked up to Kim and sternly asked, Are you Kim Yoon-sung? Kim Yoon-sung, already knowing why Bae Sun-ho was there, stood up and replied. Fighting here isn't a good idea, senior. Let's go somewhere else, somewhere more fitting, where the teachers won't notice. What do you say? They all moved to a more secluded location to negotiate. As they walked, Kim Yoon-sung closed his eyes, deep in thought. He envisioned how he would destroy them, remembering the scenes he had once imagined when he had been bedridden, unable to move, as a mere vegetable. He recalled how he fantasized about killing those he once considered friends in the most brutal ways. However, standing here now, he felt a little uneasy. Even though he had meticulously planned every step. He wasn't entirely sure if he could truly carry it out. No matter how carefully someone plans, it's different from their imagination. He had envisioned trampling his enemies underfoot, but could he really do it? As they reached the location, Kim Yoon-sung stopped. No matter how flawless my plan is, can I really go through with it? He steeled his resolve. From now on, my chances of success in exacting revenge will depend on my fight with Shin Yunmin. If I can't even handle something as small as this, I deserve to pay the price. Looking at Bae Sun-ho and his gang, Kim Yoon-sung taunted them. Is this all you've got? Hearing this, the group sneered. You're underestimating us, aren't you? Bae Sun-ho's expression turned dark as he threatened Kim Yoon-sung. You'd better back off while you still can. You've crossed the line, attacking our senior like that. You're breaking the order of things. Before Bae Sun-ho could finish his sentence, Kim Yoon-sung spat in his face, catching him off guard. Don't waste my time with your nonsense. I know why you keep provoking me. Your excuses, your lies, none of them can fix your stupid plan. Kim Yoon-sung raised his hand, pointing at the group of students watching the commotion above. Do you see that group of underlings standing up there? You all must be really ashamed, pulling together such a crowd just to deal with me alone. Kim Yoon-sung continued provoking them. Bae Sun-ho, do you want to go first? Or are you going to wait for your turn? Get your head smashed in, and end up looking like a fool? Seeing Kim Yoon-sung mocking them so casually, Bae Sun-ho's group roared in anger. This kid is out of his mind. At that moment, one of the group stepped forward. His name was Kim Chang-hyun, a senior from the 12th grade at Junin High School. Also known by the nickname, Upper Demon. With arrogance, he charged straight at Kim Yoon-sung. Let me handle this. I don't need anyone else's help. Kim Chang-hyun jumped up and swung a powerful punch towards Kim Yoon-sung. This punch is enough to knock you out. At that moment, Kim Yoon-sung recalled the previous fights where he recklessly defeated stronger opponents using all kinds of underhanded tactics. The insults people threw at him about how he won always made him uncomfortable. They'll think, if I didn't use weapons like a belt or a chair, would I still be a big deal? Facing Kim Chang-hyun, Kim Yoon-sung smirked and continued taunting. What's the matter? Scared now? Inside, Kim Yoon-sung had a grand ambition. He wanted to turn this high school into his palace. A world that Hong Kim-vin could never touch. Only if I achieve an overwhelming victory will no one dare doubt me anymore. Kim Yoon-sung thought, his gaze becoming colder. Kim Chang-hyun, enraged by the provocation, veins bulging on his face, spat out. Alright, let's do this one-on-one. But you better remember this. He lunged forward and delivered a punch with all his might. Spinning around confidently, thinking the punch had landed and knocked Kim Yoon-sung out. But when he turned back, his face suddenly showed fear and disbelief. This kid, how did he block it so fast? Refusing to accept defeat, Kim Chang-hyun charged again, shouting. Try dodging this punch, you arrogant brat. He threw his punch with all his strength. But Kim Yoon-sung easily dodged it without even needing to look. Frustrated, Kim Chang-hyun cursed. Damn it. Kim Yoon-sung had always been on the defensive. Now, he found an opportunity. A sly smile appeared on his face as he stood upright. He threw a powerful punch straight into Kim Chang-hyun's face. Kim Yoon-sung's punch left him no time to react, causing him to collapse on the spot. A familiar face above witnessed the scene, his expression turning pale with fear. That madman knocked him out with just one punch. It was only then that he realized, Kim Yoon-sung's victory over him before wasn't just luck. An indescribable unease welled up in his heart. He finally understood that he was truly afraid. It's best not to provoke him any further. Why did I ever think about fighting that lunatic? I should never have gotten involved from the start. Suddenly, he felt someone lightly pat his back. Annoyed by the interruption, he angrily shouted, "What the hell? Who's there?" But what greeted him was not an answer, just a fist coming down from above. A familiar blonde young man appeared. He called out the opponent's name with a threatening tone. Kim Sol appeared behind him, brimming with rage, ready for revenge. We have some unfinished business, don't we? A few minutes earlier, Kim Sol had approached Kim Yoon-sung. Kim Yoon-sung, what are you planning to do? I'll help you. We're in this together, as friends. Kim Sol looked at Kim Yoon-sung with concern. But Kim Yoon-sung refused his offer. You promised me, he said, you wouldn't get involved in meaningless fights. But Kim Sol didn't give up. What are you saying? You're planning to take them all on by yourself? Kim Yoon-sung responded immediately, yes. He turned to face Kim Sol, his tone softening a little. I know what you're worried about, but even if you get involved, it won't change anything. If you join, they'll use their numbers to their advantage. Kim Sol was still dissatisfied, but this is clearly unfair. Kim Yoon-sung had already anticipated this, I know, but I had to do this. No one else will take care of this for us. Kim Yoon-sung turned to look at Kim Sol. If you truly want to help me, you can do something else. Prove that I'm not alone. Kim Sol looked at Kim Yoon-sung in confusion. How? Kim Yoon-sung coldly replied, take revenge on Park Jin-woo. Park Jin-woo was proving it now. Are you crazy, or is it because Kim Yoon-sung is backing you that you become so arrogant? Go on, get cocky, you bastard. I already beat you once. Kim Sol's emotionless face succeeded in angering Park Jin-woo, who rushed to attack. Well then, I'd rather be expelled than let you live comfortably. But the current Kim Sol was different from before. He lightly kicked Park Jin-woo in the chest. Park Jin-woo's face turned pale as he staggered back a few steps. His expression filled with disbelief. What, I got knocked back? He became furious, glaring at the people standing around. Watching the scene like it was a play, their mocking gazes piercing him. Damn it, how humiliating, he cursed, you piece of trash. I'll kill you. However, it was clear with just one glance that the gap in strength was enormous. All of his attacks were effortlessly dodged by Kim Sol. Suddenly, his eyes widened as if he had realized something. He charged forward, this is my chance. But he didn't even know where the opportunity was. As soon as he rushed in, Kim Sol kicked him to the ground. Kim Sol bent down, lifting his leg high into the air. Preparing a powerful finishing move. He brought his leg down in a beautiful, forceful kick, leaving Park Jin-woo unable to get up. Below, Kim Yoon-sung continued taking down one opponent after another. It was only then that Bae Suemo realized Kim Yoon-sung's true intention. That kid is really smart, Bae Suemo thought. Glancing at his underlings sprawled out on the ground. He had this plan from the beginning. Bae Suemo had initially intended to use the overwhelming numbers to give Kim Yoon-sung a beating. But the students watching from above were all left in shock, their mouths agape at the sight. Kim Yoon-sung had already taken down 4 opponents. Is he really planning to defeat the entire 11th grade? Bae Suemo was lost in his thoughts. But no matter what I do, even if I secure a position at the top of Hong Kim Academy, after senior Shiny Min graduates, nobody will recognize me, he thought bitterly. Beating him while he's exhausted would be meaningless. If I want to be acknowledged, I had to step in now. With this thought, Bae Suemo shouted, enough. I've had enough. Let me settle this myself. Hearing this, Kim Yoon-sung immediately let go. A look of amusement spreading across his face. Bae Suemo began the fight with a formal statement. To be honest, I don't have any personal grudge against you. But watching you beat all of them alone, it really irritates me. Kim Yoon-sung looked at Bae Suemo and laughed. I can do all of this because none of you are worth anything. This comment directly enraged Bae Suemo, who rushed in, throwing a punch straight at Kim Yoon-sung's face. Yet Kim Yoon-sung didn't dodge. He stood still and took the punch head-on from Bae Suemo. Afterward, Kim Yoon-sung retaliated with a punch straight to Bae Sun-ho's face. Bae Sun-ho charged in again with a punch aimed at Kim Yoon-sung's face. But Kim Yoon-sung still didn't dodge. Instead, he flashed a strange smile, which made Bae Sun-ho uneasy. Why is he smiling? The more I hit him, the more confusing it gets. He wasn't dodging, blocking, or doing anything to stop my punches. This guy. Could it be? Kim Yoon-sung kept using the same method, throwing punches with increasing power. Was he planning to face me head-on? Bae Sun-ho was shocked as he attacked Kim Yoon-sung again. The weight difference didn't seem to matter to him at all. This back-and-forth fighting style made Bae Sun-ho feel disgusted, even driving him to the point of madness. When will this end? When will this end? The more Kim Yoon-sung was hit, the more joyful his expression became, as if he was toying with Bae Sun-ho. But suddenly, a powerful punch struck Bae Sun-ho square in the face. He clutched his bloodied mouth in fear, trembling. Kim Yoon-sung didn't stop. He violently grabbed Bae Sun-ho by the hair, furiously raining down punch after punch on his face. Savage laughter mixed with pitiful screams, creating an intensely thrilling scene. In the end, Bae Sun-ho was knocked to the ground by Kim Yoon-sung, lying there motionless. Seeing this scene, his underlings were so scared that their legs gave out beneath them. They instinctively retreated. Kim Yoon-sun calmly wiped the blood and sweat off his face. Looking at the group. Stop trembling now and go call Shiny Man. Shiny Man sat in the classroom, muttering angrily to himself. That lunatic already knew what was going on. Why did he still go after those 11th graders? Suddenly, someone rushed into the classroom. Panting and frantic to report. Shiny Man, Bae Sunho, and his group got completely wiped out. Shiny Man crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow at the messenger. How many people did that guy beat? The young man stretched out his hands. There were 3 from the 12th grade. And 6 from the 11th grade. A total of 9. Is that all? Shiny Man interrupted. He was quite excited because his plan was sure to succeed. Keep executing our plan. Even though the principal and Kim Aeon-chan are garbage. We're still in school. There's no way they can cover up the fact that 9 students got beaten up. At that moment, a panicked student rushed into the teacher's office. Sir, something terrible is happening. There's a huge fight breaking out between the students outside. He loudly shouted in the teacher's office, the crazy guy Kim Hong-sung, that 10th grader, is fighting with 11th grade students right now. It's absolute chaos. Those students are covered in blood, lying scattered all over the auditorium. We had to call the police. Another person also picked up the phone to dial the police. This is the Daesan police station. May I ask who's calling? I'm calling from Bright Prospect High School. The caller's voice was filled with fear, crying as they said, I'm telling the truth. The students are going to die. Shin Hyo-min laughed smugly. They won't let this slide easily. If we also bring up similar accusations, then they definitely can't overlook it. Even if they do let it go, it doesn't matter. We will keep doing this. Let's see how long they can endure. A mysterious call came to Ode. Hwa quickly picked up the phone. This is Ode Han, principal of Bright Prospect High School. The voice on the other end responded. This is the chief of police. Before today's incident happened, the teachers of the school had a meeting. During the meeting, Kim Yong-chan asked everyone, has anyone ever heard of the Golden Lotus? Hearing that, the teachers were all startled. Most of them had no idea what the Golden Lotus was. What the heck is the Golden Lotus? Is it a new criminal organization or something? At that moment, Kim Ong-chan began his introduction. This is an organization that uses school violence as a business model. They harass students for money, Kim Yong-chan said seriously. They target one person, and the bullies won't stop harassing them. Some of you may think this has nothing to do with Chanel High School. But the recent incidents involving Park Min-chun's gang are closely related to Hong Kim-vin. The other teachers, upon hearing this, were very curious. Could it be that Park Min-chun's gang is also part of Hong Kim-vin? Someone asked. Kim On-chun agreed, saying, perhaps, something like that. But, before he could finish, the teachers started murmuring amongst themselves. Their faces showing expressions of shock, confusion, and concern. How could that be? Am I misunderstanding something? They take money to bully students? That's impossible. Breaking the tense atmosphere, Kim Ong-chun spoke again. I'm sure all of you are confused. It's possible that, without realizing it, you may have already been involved with Hong Kim-vin. This could even lead to the end of your teaching careers. He cleverly manipulated the teachers' minds, but there was one thing he was certain of. Right now, we are all in the same boat. Kim On-chan easily listed people he knew were connected to Hong Kim-vin. Min-chun, Young Minho, Cho Ion-techo, Kong Jang-suk, and not just them. There's also Bae Sumo and Shin Yo-min. Dozens of students from Jonin High School are connected to Hong Kim-vin. Paused, looking at everyone. Think about it. What do you think would happen if this gets exposed? Kim On-chun slammed his hands on the table and stood up, speaking loudly. This isn't just about a few people. If this comes out, it could destroy the entire Jonin High School. Kim On-chun then revealed the reason for calling this meeting. I gathered all of you here because I have a request. Please, do not feel sorry for these kids. No matter what happens, you can keep yourselves out of it and continue living your normal lives. Kim On-chun leaned on the table, his face serious. We don't know anything about this situation. And make sure you don't leave any evidence of your involvement with Hong Kim-vin. For example, there's no need for you to play the role of a model teacher. One teacher, hearing this, looked puzzled. Wait, I don't quite understand. As a teacher, I can't just stand by and let violence happen. But Kim On-chun quickly interrupted, his tone threatening. Are you planning to go against Hong Kim-vin? He quickly analyzed the situation. If Hong Kim-vin targets you and you accidentally get involved, what will you do? When that time comes, you'll have to bear all the consequences alone. So, don't sympathize with or oppose Hong Kim-vin. His words seemed to hit straight at the core of everyone present. Nothing unusual had ever happened at John in high school, so in reality, when Shin Yo-min's juniors reported incidents, the teachers simply ignored them. Now, you kids are fine. Why make such a big deal out of this? Stop babbling nonsense and go play somewhere else. Even the person who called earlier, crying for help, couldn't do anything. Instead, they were scolded. Kid, don't you know? Calling the police to disturb them now will get you into legal trouble. I'll let it slide this time. Still stubborn, the person responded, what? Something serious is really about to happen. But all they got in return was the cold beeping sound of the call being hung up. Shin Yo-min listened to the report from his juniors, his face turning red with anger. These useless fools dare call themselves teachers? Isn't anyone planning to do something? He was so furious that veins popped out on his forehead, anger surging through him. They must be pretending to be ignorant on purpose, trying to avoid getting involved. And what about those cops? How can they scold kids for disturbing adults like this? Furious, he paced back and forth, silently cursing. Are we just going to let this happen? If that's how it is, don't blame me for what happens next. Determined, he silently swore that he would tear that bastard Kim Hyun-sung apart with his own hands. Suddenly, the phone in his pocket vibrated. He answered, and an angry voice roared. Who the hell is Kim Hyun-sung? Have you pissed him off? Don't you dare lay a finger on him, or we're all dead. On the other end of the line, the curses continued, leaving CEO Min stunned. Loan sharks barged into my house. If you don't want to see your father dead, stop doing anything stupid. CEO Min stared at his phone in rage. Damn it, what the hell is going on? Kim Hyun-sung, that sly fox. Then, another unfamiliar voice spoke on the other end. Shin Yo-min, it's me, Go Chang-bio. Hearing the name, Shin Yo-min trembled, pressing the phone closer to his ear. Listen carefully from now on. Soon, your house will be covered in red notices. Something your father has always tried to prevent but failed to. Now, what should I do next? Oh, and by the way, your family's debt is still outstanding, Go Chang-bio calmly threatened. That debt will now be transferred to you. Do you think giving up your inheritance will make the loan sharks care? Your life is ruined. Shin Yo-min was completely overwhelmed by the negativity and fear that Go Chang-bio created. That said, it's not like you're without a way out. If you want to live, let Kim Hyun-sung beat you like a dog. The important thing is not to let anyone else know you intentionally let it happen. Think you can do that? Shin Yo-min was silent for a long time before replying to this request. But wouldn't doing that make me look cowardly? Go Chang-bio couldn't help but burst into laughter. Cowardly? You idiot! In a fight, there's no such thing as cowardly or not. In order to win, any means can be used. He then spoke sternly. Remember, I'm not just saying this for fun. After that conversation, Shin Yo-min went to meet Kim Hyun-sung. Kim Hyun-sung looked at him with eager eyes. So, you've come? The students standing above looked down, surprised to see Shin Yo-min appear. It's Shin Yo-min. He's here, they exclaimed. Kim Hyun-sung looked at Shin Yo-min with a smirk and taunted. What are you waiting for? Come here already. Shin Yo-min gritted his teeth in anger, muttering under his breath. The voice of Go Chang-bio echoed in his head. Just wait and see. If you dare hurt Kim Hyun-sung, I'll make sure you suffer. Shin Yo-min charged forward, yelling. You bastard! He rushed at Kim Hyun-sung, intending to attack head-on, but was surprised when he realized Kim Hyun-sung remained completely still, not even attempting to dodge. He's not dodging? Shin Yo-min thought in disbelief. He quickly adjusted his stance to divert his punch. At that moment, Kim Hyun-sung seemed to confirm what he wanted to know. So, you got the call, didn't you? With that, Kim Hyun-sung retaliated, striking back with ease. He grabbed Shin Yo-min by his silver hair and questioned him. What did he tell you? Did he want you to let me win? Shin Yo-min glared at him, refusing to speak or fight back. Seeing no response, Kim Hyun-sung landed another punch squarely on Shin Yo-min's face. Why aren't you dodging like last time? He let go, striking a provocative pose. You have two choices. Kneel like a coward or fight for your honor. Make your choice. Kim Hyun-sung lunged at him again, throwing a punch at Shin Yo-min's face, hoping to ignite his anger. As expected, Shin Yo-min's fury started to build up. "You damn bastard!" Ignoring Go Changpyo's warning, Shin Yo-min charged at Kim Hyun-sung, attacking him relentlessly. To be honest, I had predicted that Shin Yo-min would lose his temper. He launched a series of deadly blows toward Kim Hyun-sung, but each one was easily blocked. If there had been no audience, maybe Shin Yo-min could have restrained himself. But for a 19-year-old filled with pride, standing before so many people, it was impossible for him to stay calm. Like a wild animal, enraged, Shin Yo-min attacked Kim Hyun-sung with reckless abandon, shouting, "I'll fight you to the death. I won't let you off that easily." But no matter how hard Shin Yo-min fought, Kim Hyun-sung effortlessly blocked every move. Shin Yo-min had competed in some amateur tournaments, so Kim Hyun-sung had easily found videos of his fights, studying his weaknesses. Defeating him was just a matter of time. Analyzing the movements of Shin Yo-min and young Guchul, Kim Hyun-sung noticed certain patterns. Shin Yo-min clenched his fists, muttering, "You bastard, Kim Hyun-sung." Kim Hyun-sung quickly noticed an opening in his stance. "I've already figured out your first weakness," Kim Hyun-sung said, and with full force, he landed a punch on Shin Yo-min's face, his expression filled with rage. Shin Yo-min tried to attack again, but Kim Hyun-sung could see through all his moves. He quickly blocked the punch. To be fair, Shin Yo-min threw his punch with his left hand, but Kim Hyun-sung countered it effortlessly. Then, Kim Hyun-sung rushed forward and landed another blow to Shin Yo-min's face. Out of habit, Shin Yo-min lowered his guard at this moment. Kim Hyun-sung carefully observed Shin Yo-min's footwork, predicting his next move. "There's the second weakness," Kim Hyun-sung thought. Whenever Shin Yo-min was about to throw a decisive punch, he would take a long step forward. Just as Kim Hyun-sung predicted, Shin Yo-min charged forward, intending to throw everything into the strike. But this was the perfect opportunity for a counterattack. Kim Hyun-sung rushed in to end the fight. Seizing the moment, he delivered a knockout punch that hit Shin Yo-min squarely. Shin Yo-min staggered backward, his head spinning, and he collapsed to the ground, dazed. The sounds around him grew distant and blurry. Suddenly, a pair of legs walked past him, snapping him back to reality. Kim Hyun-sung had grabbed his arm, clearly intending to break it. Terrified, Shin Yo-min cried out, "No, please, spare me." But there was no mercy. Kim Hyun-sung swiftly snapped his arm, and Shin Yo-min's scream of agony echoed through the air. Everyone around watched in horror as Kim Hyun-sung walked away, leaving Shin Yo-min writhing in pain on the ground. It was a flawless victory. Kim Hyun-sung turned his back on the crowd and left. This moment marked a shift in how everyone viewed him. Kim Hyun-sung had proven himself fully to the other students in the office. Meanwhile, the principal was on the phone, smiling. Yes, thank you, Chief. I'll be meeting with you soon." "Of course," he said, standing by the window and looking down below. "This is something worth looking forward to," he murmured to himself. Shin Yo-min was walking down the hallway when he suddenly received a call. It was late afternoon, and the fiery red glow of the sunset streamed through the window. A man elegantly lit a cigarette and asked the person sitting across from him, "Do you know who I am?" The man opposite him smiled, though there was a hint of tension in his eyes. "Of course, you're Go Chang-bio, the head of Manhwa Construction, right? I wonder, what brings you to our small financial company?" Go Chang-bio silently smoked his cigarette. "I'm considering putting your name on a few small projects we've been working on recently," he said. Upon hearing this, the man across from him was overjoyed. "I'm sorry, do you mean?" he began, barely able to contain his excitement. This was his chance. If he could establish some connections with Manhwa Group, countless opportunities in Daesan would open up for him. But nothing in this world comes for free. Tentatively, he asked, "What would you want from us?" Go Chang-bio slowly pulled out a chair and sat down. "It's simple," he said. "Just give me one contract, with Shin Yo-min's name on it. That's all it takes, and you'll have a relationship with us." As soon as the phone call ended, the man angrily cursed. "You bastard, what have you been doing outside, you idiot?" Shin Yo-min, confused, asked. "What are you talking about?" After dealing with Shin Yo-min, Kim Hyun-sung calmly walked home. As soon as he opened the door, Kim Sol anxiously asked, "Are you okay?" Kim Hyun-sung didn't answer directly but instead asked, "And what about you?" Judging by Kim Sol's expression, it was clear that everything had gone as planned. Hearing this, Kim Hyun-sung casually responded, "Good, it couldn't have been easy." Kim Sol was still worried about what Kim Hyun-sung had done that day. So what now? Many people saw you beat Shin Yo-min. Sure, defeating him is a good thing, but you broke his arm. Kim Yoon-sung wasn't concerned at all. He simply smiled faintly. There's nothing to worry about, he said. Something like this. When would it ever be considered a serious problem? Kim Sol, puzzled by his words, asked. What do you mean? Kim Yoon-sung gazed off into the distance, his expression full of meaning. You know, he began. After spending time around scum like Park Min-chun, I realized something. Kim Yoon-sung glanced at the shadowy figure of Kim Ong-chun and whispered. It's that the heavens will never side with the weak. Hearing this, Kim Ong-chun clenched his fists, his anger boiling inside. He wanted to explode, but he didn't dare speak up. Damn that crazy Kim Yoon-sung, he thought. How am I supposed to clean up this mess now? Looking at Shin Ye-min, who was writhing on the ground. Kim Ong-chun felt disgusted with himself for having made such a risky bet. Now, there was no way to pull back. He couldn't stay neutral anymore. Shin Ye-min, clutching his broken arm, banged. Teacher, please take me to the hospital. Can't you hear me? Kim Ong-chun was still lost in his thoughts. His mind clouded as if stuffed with cotton. There were now only two choices. Either let Kim Yoon-sung graduate smoothly, or his own life would be anything but peaceful. Kim Ong-chun looked at Shin Ye-min with disdain in his eyes. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say, Shin Ye-min. Your arm didn't break because of a fight with Kim Yoon-sung. No, it happened because you were out with friends and suddenly fell down the stairs. He glanced at the other students scattered on the ground. This doesn't just apply to you. If any of you dare mention Kim Yoon-sung's name at the hospital, I won't cover up any of the things you've done in the past. Got it? You want to ruin Kim Yoon-sung? Don't expect your own lives to remain intact. The only ones who will suffer will be you. Hearing those cold words, Shin Ye-min shouted. You call yourself a teacher after saying something like that? No matter what, you're still a teacher, damn it. In this situation, you should be prioritizing the safety of your students. Kim Ong-chun, visibly angry, moved closer to Shin Ye-min, speaking each word slowly. Listen carefully, you filth of society. You've used the same method before to cover up your own past. Shin Ye-min immediately retorted. When have you ever taught me anything properly? It's clear that back then, I was helping you. Kim Ong-chun placed his hand on Shin Ye-min's shoulder and pressed hard on his injury, causing Shin Ye-min to cry out in pain. I've always been like this. Don't forget it. Kim Ong-chun threatened the other students as well. I don't care about the rest of you, but you, Shin Ye-min, remember.